Chapter 843, The Heart of Darkness. Chapter 843, The Heart of Darkness. A decrepit, shabby manor 10,000 miles southwest of Ka Fu's shop. Shi Yang's group of 3 sneakily arrived in this place. As soon as they arrived, the stone gate of the manor silently opened. The yard inside had some withered ancient trees. The ambience here was tranquil and heavy. There were no energy fluctuations. Some stone buildings were built in the deep place inside the garden. Shi Yang just walked forward and didn't even frown. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu exchanged looks, saying nothing while quietly following Shi Yang. After they got into the garden, the stone gate closed automatically. The sole stone door of a stone house in the manor opened inaudibly. Shi Yang's group walked in one after another. The stone house didn't have a window. After the 3 of them walked through the door, it closed. They found themselves immersed in complete darkness. It was so dark that they couldn't see their own fingers. A gloomy light appeared little by the stone wall. A black figure was sitting neatly on a platform. She lifted her black veiled hat, exposing her savage scarred face. At first glance, Ka Tuor and Ka Fu felt their legs shivering. Their faces grimaced shortly. They knew this face. The most ruthless woman in the dark firmament divine nation, the regimental commander of the Bloody Legion who topped the 5 great feudal vassals in the raging Flamestar area. This woman's bloody hands had killed so many people. Any enemy of the dark firmament divine nation would have paled fearfully facing her. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu weren't exceptions. Shi Yang slightly bent his body, his face faint. "Greetings, Madam Leona. I was wondering what you summoned me for." Leona sat on the high platform. Her dark green eyes were gloomy, reflecting no mood. She just looked at him and said nothing. Although she didn't say anything, an invisible pressure had pressed down on the other 3. They felt annoyed as if they couldn't hold their lives in this place. It was much more frightening than facing Barrett and Blackhorn. After a long moment, Leona spoke slowly. "You took the star map from the Purgatory Star?" Shi Yang was surprised, but he didn't deny it. "Yeah, I brought it out." "It was God's will," mumbled Leona. She kept silent for a while as though she had immersed in her memory. "Did you know who saved you twice?" "I do," Shi Yang nodded honestly. "Do you know why she has saved you?" asked Leona. Pondering for a while, Shi Yang peeked at bloody slaughterer Ka Tuor and Ka Fu. He said uncertainly, "Is it related to my mark?" "You're smart. Your fortune is good too. You found her not long after you've arrived in the Heaven Punishment City. Your fate is good. That is why you got the inheritance." Leona nodded, throwing a look at bloody slaughterer Ka Tuor. She snarled, "Ka Tuor, show your mark to me." "What mark?" Ka Tuor was bewildered. Shi Yang smiled, pointing at his forehead. Ka Tuor got it. He immediately urged his energy to circulate the chaotic god domain. His eyes turned garnet, and the dim mark on his forehead slowly appeared. It showed the 5 blood clouds. "Oh right. No wonder why you were able to sense danger and quickly change it to safe situations several times." Leona's eyes brightened up as she muttered. "Turning danger into safe situations several times?" Bloody slaughterer Ka Tuor was astounded. After a while, he was stirred up. Is it? Staying in the land of God punishment for years, he had been besieged several times. His soul had almost been destroyed. However, from time to time, his enemies would fail to generate energy randomly as though they had made mistakes in their cultivation. They wouldn't be able to release their energy and their only consequence was to be killed by Ka Tuor. Thanks to those lucky moments, he had harvested a lot and become famous among the pirates. Gradually, he had established his own organization. Since then, Ka Tuor had doubted the possibility of someone helping him. He couldn't have been so lucky. Every time he fell into an inescapable situation, his enemy would make a fatal mistake. He thought that God favored him and didn't want him to die yet. However, listening to Leona, he finally understood. It was not the mighty God who had helped him. Somebody else had saved him many times. "Shi Yang told you to give away 10,000 divine crystals. Wasn't that worth it for you?" Is your life not worth 10,000 divine crystals? Leona wore a mocking countenance. Did you really think that your fate was that good? Ka Tuor's brawny body shivered as gratitude arose in his heart, his eyes watery. He said dully, "So, she has saved me many times. I'm so dumb to have not figured it out." Ka Tuor gawked. He suddenly realized that something extraordinary had happened to his brother, which he didn't know. Also, he now knew that his brother had almost died many times. Someone had saved his life, which helped him survive and gain today's position. That person was Fei Lan. "If you didn't have the mark and she didn't know about your mark, you would have been dead already," said Leona faintly. "I got it. I finally got it. Thanks for telling me all of this." Ka Tuor was so grateful. He bowed respectfully with tears falling from his eyes. No one understood his labor and effort for many years. From the point of view of an anonymous warrior in the land of God punishment, he had suffered so many adversities, which Ka Fu, his blood brother, didn't even know about. Ka Tuor understood that it was not easy for him to have today's attainment. He always thanked God for taking care of him that he could survive stubbornly for so many times. However, until today, he finally knew that he had a pair of eyes watching over him and taking care of him. The feeling of having someone protecting him was something he had never had for his entire life. All of a sudden, someone woke him up from his perplexed life. Ka Tuor's feelings couldn't be expressed once with words. "Do you know why you stayed alive after breaking my battleship? Do you know why I had to protect you when Aogu Duo wanted to kill you?" Leona's line of sight shifted to Shiyang. "I know why." Shiyang chuckled. "At the moment I saw you use your power Upanishad, I suspected a little of it." "Thank you." He bowed to show his gratitude. "Hey." Leona was surprised. Her eyebrows twitched. "How come you got it that fast? What did you depend on?" "I've seen your dark power Upanishad," explained Shiyang. Leona's eyes brightened, but she didn't say anything, waiting for his explanation. "I met a war devil in the Grace mainland. It's a black iron puppet. As far as I've known, it's the dark clone of Laro Luo. I think your dark power Upanishad is somehow related to it." Shiyang tried to ask for more information. "Laro Luo?" Leona shook her head. It seemed like she didn't know this person. "I've never heard about him before. Does he also cultivate dark power Upanishad?" "True. The same power." Shiyang was astounded. "If you don't know Laro Luo, how are you able to also comprehend dark Upanishad? It doesn't seem right." Then, his mind flickered, releasing the war devil from the blood vein ring. It's been a long time since his last use of the black puppet. The war devil's power was limited. Even if it used all of the power, it could use the energy of the peak of spirit realm. Compared to Shiyang at the moment, it was trivial. That's why he had forgotten the puppet. Leona's eyes sparkled. Her dark power moved. She landed by the war devil, her face excited. "The heart of darkness. Oh my, this puppet has the heart of darkness. I know it. I know the reason." While talking, her soul altar spun, releasing a magical suction force. The heart of darkness inlaid on War Devil's chest turned into a dark light cluster, flying towards Leona. In just a blink, it disappeared into Leona's body as though it had become a part of her. A gust of dark and wicked aura shot out from Leona. She didn't say anything while she sat down, closing her eyes. She seemed to try to fuse the heart of darkness, her visage stern. After the heart of darkness detached from the iron puppet, it collapsed grumblingly, turning into fragments on the floor. There was no beam of energy remained. The war devil was totally broken. Leona was excited. She closed her eyes to feel, smiling as she was stirred up. "Brother, it seems that she's taking in the Upanishad inheritance, just like I did before," said Ka Tuor gingerly. Shiyang nodded as he also saw the clues. The heart of darkness looked crucial to Leona, a warrior cultivating dark power Upanishad. It seemed to contain the mysteries of the inheritance, which was like the star nucleus in his case. At this moment, Leona was fusing the heart of darkness into her body and making it part of her like what Shiyang had done with the star nucleus. "What's going on?" Ka Fu was bewildered. He thought that what happened today was very mysterious and yet exciting. It made him baffled. He started to wonder if all that he'd seen today was just a dream. Oh, I don't know. You have to ask my senior. Ka Tuor also wanted to know, looking at Shi Yang. Shi Yang's face was odd. He didn't understand clearly either. It seems that there was a line that connects everybody together. But Shi Yang couldn't explain Ka Tuor and his brother. He hesitated for a while, then said, "Don't rush. Wait until Madame Leona wakes up, we will ask her." Ka Tuor and Ka Fu were surprised, but they didn't ask more. All then looked at Leona quietly, waiting for her to complete her fusion with the Heart of Darkness. Gradually, a dim mark enlarged and became clearer on Leona's glabella. 5 blood clouds. It was exactly the same as Ka Tuor's mark and the mark on the small shield in Feilan's shop. Ka Tuor was shaken, pointing at Leona's forehead with fright. That mark. Yes, that mark, I know it. Shi Yang had doubted it before. As soon as he saw the mark on Leona's forehead, he confirmed what he was thinking. Shi Yang beamed a smile. We all have that mark, right? Brother, do you have that mark, too? Ka Tuor was astounded, shouting. It's true. I got one, Shi Yang nodded. Anyway, your mark appears on your god body's forehead, and my mark is in my god soul's center. This is the only difference. Ka Tuor was perplexed. Chapter 844. What can we do then? Chapter 844. What can we do then? Black Curtain Pirates Headquarter, Heaven Punishment City. Crushed stones were scattered on the ground. The center of the large yard was concaved. Barrett and Black Horn sat neatly in the middle of the crushed stone. Blood covered their bodies, their eyes gloomy. Feng Ku, Russell, and Jianong were here. They stood around the large yard, looking at Barrett and Black Horn. They were in a fix with a little bit pleasure of seeing people in misfortune. Many Black Curtain pirates were also looking at their bosses with dark faces. The battle that happened in the Heaven Punishment City had caught the attention of many people. They all saw Barrett and Black Horn being dragged through the sky of the Heaven Punishment City and thrown to their headquarters. The two of them couldn't even wiggle. Everybody knew Barrett and Shi Yang had a battle taken place in Ka Fu's shop. Of course, it wasn't hard to guess whom Barrett and Black Horn had attacked. However, Shi Yang had only the second sky of King God Realm. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu were just the King God Realm warriors. Barrett was an intimidating existence since he was at the original God Realm. Not only could he accomplish this deed, he also fell into this helter-skelter situation. People who saw them couldn't reason what had happened. No one knows who had attacked these two in the dark. However, at this moment, people all knew that a formidable hermit had stayed in the Heaven Punishment City. This hermit was like an invisible giant towering the Heaven Punishment City, watching and keeping the order of the city quietly. The Heaven Punishment City banned fighting. People who broke the rules would be taught a lesson. Even if Barrett was a big leader, he couldn't be an exception. Do you think this is funny? Barrett was so angry. He looked at the others as if he could shoot flames with his eyes. He gritted his teeth. Yeah, I've broken the rules. So what? Are you going to expel me from the Heaven Punishment City? He could see the unfriendly mockery of Feng Ku, Russell, and Jianong. As he was enraged, he wasn't polite to them. No, we're not here to solve your rule-breaking case. Feng Ku twitched his mouth, making a bizarre smile. Moreover, you've got your punishment. We won't trouble you more. Ha ha, Barrett. Your fortune isn't good, I think. You've always been disgruntled. Jianong and Russell also sneered, their faces showed their inaudible ridicule. Did you come here to see how funny my situation is? Barrett darkened his face. The flame of anger rose in his eyes. I used to think that in the Heaven Punishment City, the four of us were the strongest. I've never thought that we're just the order keepers in daylight. Someone in the dark is much stronger than us. That person seems to use his or her own methods to control the city. Are you willing to let someone else take your powers? What can we do then? Jianong shook his head begrudgingly. When we aren't as strong as this knight character, we can't do nothing but stoop our heads. Although that mysterious expert has a high realm, he or she isn't hostile to us. Why should we find the way to lose our faces altogether? I think it isn't a bad thing to have a character like that to enforce the rules of the Heaven Punishment City. Yeah, it's true. Even if we don't like it, what can we do then? Russell beamed a forced smile. That hermit could subdue people easily. We're not the equal opponents that we were back then. This person has been in the city for so many years. If he wanted to attack us, how would we have been safe during those years? Apparently, he just wants to keep the order of the city. It's also our initial purpose. If something happens, why should we find trouble ourselves? How come I didn't know such a tremendous existence in the Heaven Punishment City? Barrett still had a grimace. We've known it not for long. Genong and Russell exchanged looks, showing the depressed countenances. I've known it earlier. Feng Ku, the one belonging to the previous generation, took a deep breath. I always thought that it was just a rumor. I didn't put it in my mind. If I didn't know about you and Fan Yi, perhaps, I would still think that it was just a rumor. However, today, I believe that it is true. So you are here for what? Giving me advice to not swagger in the Heaven Punishment City? Are you asking me to let that kid go? Shouted Barrett. Nope. We didn't want to talk about it. Anyway, if you still want to chase after him, go ahead. We will be happy waiting for your result. Russell laughed oddly as if he wasn't afraid of the protector in the dark of the Heaven Punishment City. I don't want to die early, Barrett said with a stiff face as he tried to control his mood. Blackhorn was more despondent, talking with a grimace. That hermit just wanted to teach us a lesson. He didn't strike us hard. If it happens again, I'm not sure if we will survive. How is Shi Yang? Is he okay? Feng Rao contemplated behind Feng Ku for a while. Eventually, she couldn't hold her worry anymore, frowning and asking. That kid lives well. Barrett suddenly got enraged badly. Feng Rao, what's so good about him? He's just a lucky kid. He doesn't have a background force to support him. Why did you choose him? Feng Rao gave him a cold smile. It has nothing to do with you. She wanted to know whether Shi Yang was alright or not. She didn't have any good feelings towards Barrett. Knowing Shi Yang was safe, her heart quieted down. Of course, she wouldn't give Barrett a nice face. Buzz buzz buzz. All of a sudden, something buzzed low and hurried in Feng Ku's sleeve like a hasty mosquito. Feng Ku arched his brows. One hand of his retracted into the sleeve. He closed his eyes as if he was sensing something. His face changed dramatically afterward. He couldn't help but bawl, his face frightened. Fan Yi is dead. Hearing him, everybody else was shaken, looking at him disbelievingly. I just got the news. The headmaster of the Fan family, Fan He, is going to the land of God punishment alone. The 9-star Chamber of Commerce isn't far from us. With Fan his competence, if he travels at the max speed, he will be here shortly. Feng Ku took a deep breath. His face was very solemn. The intelligence I got from the 9-star Chamber of Commerce says that Fan is enraged because his blood brother Fan Yi was killed in the Heaven Punishment City. Good. He's dead. Good. Haha. Russell was bewildered. He burst out laughing like crazy. He deserved that. Haha. Feng Rao's beautiful eyes also brightened, yelling excitedly. Those pirates who had been attacked by the Fan family got excited hearing the news. Many pirates of the land of God punishment had disgusted the Fan family the most. Recently, the Fan family had always covered and attacked the pirates. If they hadn't hidden in the Forbidden Lands, many pirates would have been killed. Russell and the Fan family had a deep grudge. Feng Rao's big brother also was killed by the force of the Fans. Many friends and beloved ones of the pirates were also killed by the Fans. Thus, hearing the news made them all excited, yelling happily. Fan He arrived. Feng Ku pondered for a while then shouted, his face grim. The noisy cheering vanished with his words. People became gloomy instantly. They looked extremely anxious and tense. In the raging Flamestar area, Fan He, the headmaster of the Fan family, was like Du Tianji. He was the most dangerous existence at the third sky of original God realm. Their names were heard in every corner of the life stars in the raging Flamestar area. He was deemed the peak of existence. Today, This character was about to arrive in the Heaven Punishment City personally. Who wouldn't be tense? With our forces, we're Fan his matches. What should we do? Jianong asked gingerly as if he got a headache. Arrange your members. We will retreat from the Heaven Punishment City immediately. Yeah, tell the leaders of the other forces to prepare. We will leave at the fastest speed and head directly to the area that the star map points to. This is good. It's time to move, Fengku said after pondering for a while. If the hermetic expert in the land of God punishment wants to protect the Heaven Punishment City, even Fan he won't be able to destroy the city, which has been standing firm for several thousand years. Wait until we explore the mysteries of the star map and get stronger. Then, Fan he won't be a threat to us anymore. People nodded in agreement with his words. They hurried to arrange their formations and people. Father, Shi Yang. We don't know where he is, Feng Rao said softly. We have so many people here. We can't wait for only him. We don't have much time though. It will be good if he can come before we leave. Otherwise, we can't do anything about it, Feng Rao frowned. It's not a bad thing if he can't join our expedition. As long as we can harvest something, we won't be mistreating him. Feng Rao also understood that they wouldn't take risks to linger and wait for Shi Yang. She could only nod her head reluctantly and listen to her father. However, she still hoped that Shi Yang would show up soon. Another hidden manor in the Heaven Punishment City. Carthew was talking with Zi Yarrow discreetly. Suddenly, he arched his brows, jolted up and walked to the garden of the manor. Ao Jera appeared there, speaking to a man. His face was bright. Sir Aogu Duo. Zi Yarrow greeted the man as she was shaken seeing him. Your Highness, you're still stunningly gorgeous. Aogu Duo, one of the 5 feudal vassals, laughed cheerily. No wonder Ao Jera wanted to go with you, no matter how hard I've tried to keep him. Haha, from the ancient time until now, heroes are attracted to beauties and beauties are attracted to heroes. You and this kid are perfectly matched. Zi Yarrow felt resentful, but her face was calm. However, she didn't reply. You've come just on time. Those pirates seem to have some strange commotions. They want to leave the city quickly, said Carthew. Once they leave the Heaven Punishment City, it would be hard to find them in the Forbidden Lands. They are more familiar with the topography there than we are. If we want to attack them, the next 2 days are the best chances. Attack them? Aogu Duo shook his head, his face grimaced. I don't want to die unaccountably like Fan Yi. Hearing him, Carthew, Zi Yarrow, and Ao Jera were startled. They knew that Fan Yi had disappeared mysteriously, but they didn't know that he was dead. It wasn't a joke when an original God Realm warrior died. It would be spread over the raging Flamestar area. We can confirm that a terrifying hermetic expert is dwelling in the Heaven Punishment City, said Aogu Duo with a solemn countenance. He looked scared, too. He seemed too afraid of that person to show any offense. Chapter 845, Darkness Shrouding. Chapter 845, Darkness Shrouding. He died just like that. Carthew was frightened, his face changed slightly. He was also at the first sky of original God Realm like Fan Yi. Fan Yi was killed in the Heaven Punishment City. If he was careless, his soul would perish, too. Yeah, he's dead. He was killed in the Heaven Punishment City. I got the intelligence from the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce, Aogu Duo nodded, confirming the news. Fan he is enraged. He has departed alone from the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce, heading to the Heaven Punishment City. He wants to take revenge for his brother. Hotshots of the Fan family will arrive shortly. The Heaven Punishment City will be active when that happens. Pausing for a while, Aogu Duo continued, we're now sure that the Heaven Punishment City does have an intimidating existence. That person is watching over the order of the city. Anybody who dares to fight will be punished strictly. I don't dare to let such a powerful expert lay his eyes on me. If we want to plot the star map, we have to wait until Fengku has left the land of God punishment. Carthew and Zi Yarrow darkened their face. Where's Leona? If I count correctly, she should have been here before my arrival. Didn't she contact you guys? asked Aogu Duo curiously. Carthew and Zi Yarrow shook their head, indicating that they hadn't met the commander of the Bloody Legion yet. I'm sure she's in the city already. Aogu Duo darkened his face. Let me see where she is now. Aogu Duo released his soul consciousness. The sky of the Heaven Punishment City now seemed to have his eyes looking for Leona's aura. Aogu Duo and Leona were archenemies. They had been competing fiercely for many years. He was very familiar with Leona's aura. And his realm wasn't lower than Leona. That's why he had the confidence to say so. However, not long after he had released his soul consciousness, and he hadn't searched carefully enough, he found a tremendous energy fluctuation emitting from a corner of the Heaven Punishment City. A dark halo expanded from that area. Wherever that halo passed by, darkness fell, shrouding everything. Energy fluctuations or any other movements became unclear inside that dark light curtain. The soul consciousness couldn't sense anything, either. Aogu Duo was shaken. He gathered himself immediately. It's Leona, Carthew cried in fear. That wave of energy was too powerful. Not only Aogu Duo but also Carthew could feel it. She's in the Heaven Punishment City, indeed. Go get her. Damn it. Such tremendous dark energy fluctuations will alert all original God Realm warriors. Big trouble. Aogu Duo grimaced, getting infuriated. Once she's exposed, they will know we're here. We can't sneak in anymore. Carthew and Zi Yarrow didn't say anything. They just flew after Aogu Duo. They headed to the area where dark energy fluctuated strangely and visibly. At the same time, some original God Realm experts in the Heaven Punishment City were scattered in different areas. All felt that the dark power had engulfed them. Having a little hesitation, they then dashed toward that area. They were Feng Ku, Russell, Genong, Barrett, Jester, the master of the Li family, Li Yufeng, and Bai Tian, the commander of the Underworld League. The high existence at the original God Realm had confirmed Leona's identity immediately when they sensed that aura. Leona was infamous in the Raging Flame Star area. The dark power was her flagship. As soon as they saw it, they immediately knew who was the maker of this commotion. Pirates of the Heaven Punishment City hated the members of the three big forces. Leona was the best executioner of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. Of course, they would hate her the most. Especially since the dark energy rippled this time differently somehow. It was stable as if Leona was at the critical moment of her subtle power comprehension. If they could take this chance to attack Leona, she wouldn't be able to use all of her power. It was possible that they could kill her this time. Everybody was excited, accelerating towards her location. It was because of the darkness that they couldn't see their own fingers. Leona was shrouded in the darkness that was more like black ink. A flow of terrifying dark energy was released, sweeping everywhere. Shi Yang, Ka Tuor, and his brother couldn't see each other or Leona's figure. They were all shrouded in the absolute darkness. However, they could feel that Leona's location very clearly. She was like a massive dark sun appearing in their sea of consciousness, which was emitting earth-shaking energy fluctuations. Darkness expanded, reaching every direction. After a couple minutes, the entire Heaven Punishment City, an area of tens of thousands of square miles, was covered by the dark. The entire Heaven Punishment City was sunk into absolute darkness so black that people couldn't see their own fingers. The warriors couldn't see each other. They could only use their souls to sense. No matter what crystal or energy source was used, once a beam of light sparkled, the darkness would swallow it immediately. It seemed that dark power didn't want to let any beam of light appear. She's comprehending her dark power Upanishad. Ka Fu's voice trembled in the dark. We are near her. Should something unexpected happen to us? Although they couldn't see each other, their verbal communication wasn't restrained. They could also use the soul consciousness to locate the others. What are you worried about? Shi Yang snorted. If she wanted to kill you, you would be dead now. Don't talk nonsense. I'm afraid that her power couldn't be controlled well, and while she's comprehending her power, she forgets about our existence. With her realm and power, as soon as she urges her energy, we will die immediately. I'm afraid that she would kill us accidentally. Ka Fu was anxious in the dark. His voice even trembled. Leona was notorious, indeed. She was famous for her bloodthirsty instinct. Ka Fu was scared of her. Today, she was revealing her earth-shattering energy. Of course, this man got more frightened. No, she could control the dark power easily. At her realm, she wouldn't fall into such an unconscious condition. Although Ka Tuor wasn't so confident, he still tried to comfort his brother. Some experts are coming. Shiyang bawled. Ka Tuor could also feel it. Not only one, F***CK. It seems like all the original God Realm experts in the Heaven Punishment City are coming. We got big trouble this time. What should we do? Ka Fu wanted to cry. She's the regimental commander of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, the top executioner. If Feng Ku knows we're here with her, I'm afraid that we won't be able to stay in the Heaven Punishment City anymore. If they accuse us of cooperating with the enemy, our career will be destroyed shortly. Ka Tuor was frowning. He stayed quiet as he couldn't think of anything to calm his brother down. She's learning the Dark Upanishad. We can't say anything now. If someone disturbs her now, it will affect her progress in advancing her Upanishad, said Shiyang. Pondering, he continued, we should try our best to protect her. No matter what happens in the future, we're on the same side. We should help each other. Senior, I also want to help her. But the three of us aren't a match for Barrett alone. People who are heading here are all the original God Realm experts of the Heaven Punishment City. I think even the outsiders. How can we help her? You tell me. Ka Tuor couldn't help but yell. Listening to him, Shiyang fell into silence. Yes, it's true. How could they help her? How could they resist the incoming forces? Depend on them, the three King God Realm warriors. He suddenly had a headache as he felt so helpless. It was because of their low realm and insufficient energy. If he could have Leona's competence, he could stay outside and resist the enemy to give her time. However, he was just a small warrior at the King God Realm. Facing so many original God Realm experts, what could he do? While the three of them had no solution, a hoarse voice arose in the dark room. That damn girl knows I won't just stand and stare. That's why she dares act recklessly like that. The voice stopped. The only dark halo that wasn't affected by the darkness appeared clearly, illuminating this chamber. Fei Lan didn't stand in the dark anymore. Precursor. Ka Tuor was shaken. He got emotional, kneeling down and pounding his head on the ground. Thank you for caring about me those recent years. Ka Tuor will never forget your favors during the rest of my life. Fei Lan snorted. You don't need to thank me. I just did it because of the mark on your forehead. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cared about your death or life. Pausing for a while, she looked at Shiyang. You're not bad. You didn't ignore it but try your best to help when the dangers come. Shiyang felt embarrassed. My realm and powers are too low. Although I want to help, I cannot do much. I was just talking. If they come, I will be their target soon. It's enough that you have this thought. Fei Lan nodded, talking faintly. You three are standing on the way. Your staying here will just distract the others. You should leave. A tender flow of energy bound the three of them, directly bringing them away from this house. They were thrown away in the dark, unknowing of their destination. After they landed, they couldn't sense Leona's existence anymore, which meant that they were brought too far away from that area. Brother, it was her. It was really her. Ka Tuor was still flooded with emotions. She admitted it. She admitted that she has always taken care of me. She's saved me several times. For my whole life, I have never been taken care that way. He was so touched. Because, for his whole life, he had always struggled near the death. He had never had anyone treated him with care. Once he knew her, the gratitude overflowed, flooding his heart. Shiyang believed that after this encounter, no matter how strong Ka Tuor could become in the future, he would never forget Fei Lan's favor. Even if Fei Lan asked him to die, he probably wouldn't hesitate to fulfill her order. Although this man was fiery and brutal, once he appreciated someone, he carved his gratitude to the heart. He would treasure that favor for the rest of his life. Yeah, Shi Yang replied, closing his eyes to release his soul consciousness. It was added to space power. He wanted to see the commotion inside the heaven punishment city where absolute darkness shrouded it. He knew that a battle that could shake the entire raging Flamestar area would take place shortly. He was so excited, looking forward to it. Chapter 846, The Giant Pale Hand. Chapter 846, The Giant Pale Hand. The battle took place earlier than he had estimated. As soon as his soul consciousness was released, he immediately felt a formidable energy fluctuation rocketing through the air from Leona's area. An energy wave shook the mountain and cracked the ground. It was powerful as 10 volcanoes erupting at the same time, bursting out grumblingly in the heaven punishment city. They could feel a terrible quake almost instantly. A pale flame arose in the absolute darkness. It expanded over the entire city. Under that energy wave, all rules and principles of the mortal world seemed to be subdued. The aura of this force could snatch away any creature's life. It shrouded the entire city, making every single warrior in the city fearful. They almost kneeled down. All warriors in the city, regardless of their realms, realized that they were facing a character in the heaven punishment city who could even discolor the earth and sky. That erosive aura wanted to destroy everything else. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu paled. They knew the battle has begun. They were instinctively anxious. Senior, is that our precursor's power Upanishad? Ka Tuor's voice slightly trembled. It's frightening. That corroding power is very powerful. It seems like it could melt all kind of energy. My God. I have never thought the heaven punishment city has those with such incredible abilities. Ka Fu was so scared that he couldn't talk. He finally understood why Shi Yang was so generous to her, asking him to give her 10,000 top-quality divine crystals. When this thought popped up in his mind, he saw something dazzling floating up into the sky at Leona's shabby manor. He gawked, seeing what was happening. They were the divine crystals he offered her himself. The crystal-clear divine crystals glowed gloriously like bright stars. They lined up, arranging neatly in the sky of the heaven punishment city and spinning continually. The energy inside the divine crystals was all taken. The ear-piercing whistle and hissing resounded from the crystals as their energy was stirred up, falling like rainfall. The divine crystal stored thick earth and heaven energy. The quantity of energy in a crystal could be compared to the amount of essence chi in the body of a third or a second sky of King God Realm warrior. However, it was hard to release the energy inside the divine crystal at once, let alone use it to attack in a battle. Even the strong experts couldn't use the energy all at once. They had to absorb the energy little by little and blend it into their body. Nobody knew that the divine crystal could be used this way. The divine crystals were triggered then arrayed into a natural, magical formation, creating an unpredictable movement of energy. More than 10,000 divine crystals bigger than raindrops fell and turned in the sky like blazing white meteors. The dark energy didn't affect them. From time to time, the crystals collided with each other, sending radiant sparks into the air. A divine crystal could provide the energy of a King God Realm warrior. When more than 10,000 pieces fell altogether, it was equal to more than 10,000 King God Realm warriors attacking at once with all of their best powers. Shortly after, the explosions reverberated in the heaven punishment city densely. Most of them came from Leona's manor. It seemed like all the experts had been affected, and they were trying their best to resist. Giant hands appeared in the void of the heaven punishment city, which looked more like the hand seal of the death. It slowly pressed down, snatching over the silhouettes there. Each hand was eccentrically pale and wielded corroding power. White mist hovered, sending shivers down people's spines and rising the hair on their nape. When the hands pressed down, the divine crystals exploded, contributing the energy into that giant pallid hand and strengthening the corroding power. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Just like a terrible earthquake, horrifying explosions echoed in an area of the heaven punishment city. The shockwaves expanded, turning houses into debris. Not long after that, they could hear the miserable screams and whines in the loud explosions. It seemed like many people were subdued under those pale hands. They couldn't even move. The noisy commotions of the Heaven Punishment City oddly quieted down all of a sudden. No sound was made in the darkness. No one knew why the energy commotions in Leona's area halted. It seemed like the original God Realm warriors who came to this area had been pushed to the ground by the Pale Hands. Their powers were restrained, so they couldn't use their powers Upanishad to counterattack. They could only try their best to resist the erosive power. Basically, they couldn't affect Leona. After a while, screams and yells arose from another section of the Heaven Punishment City. Dozens of thousands of warriors with different realms in the city had been alerted to the earth-shattering battle. Instinctively, they dashed in the dark and approached the area. They screamed and yelled to show the others their locations. Contemplating for a while, Shiyang said all of a sudden, "We should go there and check." Ka Tuor nodded, agreed with him immediately. "Yes. We should go and see what's happening." It was hard to observe the encounters between the original God Realm warriors. As this battle gathered so many original God Realm experts, it was a rare chance to watch a formidable battle scene. If they missed it, they would regret it for the rest of their life. If they could watch the battle between the original God Realm warriors to learn their techniques and the way they use their powers, it would benefit the Low Realm warriors in comprehending their realm later. Perhaps, they could have a chance to break the restraint and enter the new realm. This is the reason why, even though they knew it was very dangerous, they wanted to still go and see. They wanted to see the tremendous details of this battle. They wanted to see how the strong experts control their powers, and to which level the unimaginable intimidation of those experts had reached. Shi Yang, Ka Tuor, Ka Fu, and many other warriors congregated at that area through the darkness. That area had the brilliant divine crystals marked the location in the sky. This battlefield was obvious. They didn't need to worry about not finding it. As they couldn't see each other, they could only release the soul consciousness to sense. Instantly, the soul consciousness created a mess in the Heaven Punishment City. Different power classes' soul consciousness collided and scattered. Sometimes, they created a tremendous soul collision, leading to a soul attack. The Heaven Punishment City had just been quiet for a moment, but now it fell into an even louder bustle. Warriors living in the city often had a lot of enemies. Once they sensed the soul consciousness of the opponent, they would immediately attack in the dark. Today, the Heaven Punishment City's warriors were fighting each other. The rule of fighting prohibited in the city was temporarily broken. Many people had seized the chance and killed the ones they didn't like. More and more battles took place in the city. Screams, yells, grunts, hisses, whine, and bloodthirsty roars sounded at the same time. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A series of terrifying quakes sent out from the center of the battle. The earth-shattering shockwaves created the exaggerated scene of the day the earth explodes. Rocks, big trees, and other miscellaneous debris were sent into the air with frightening energy. Many warriors, who just came, got hit before they could steady their body. Their god body exploded instantly. When their realms and energy weren't enough, taking risks and jumping into the center of the battle resulted in soul-shattering consequences. On the way to the battle, Shi Yang found many corpses along his way, and he could even see the soul altar fleeing away from the Heaven Punishment City. His eyes brightened. The blood vein rings reminder echoed in his mind. The thought of devouring the soul altar appeared uncontrollably in his head, and he couldn't ease it off. Hesitating for a while, Shi Yang quietly detached from Ka Tuor and Ka Fu. He concealed his aura and hid in a corner. He triggered his soul altar, making the black hole section emerge. In this absolute darkness, the black hole wasn't really distinctive. Nobody could find it. A soul altar flew out from its smashed god body. It flashed, then disappeared into the darkness, flying out of the Heaven Punishment City. However, at this moment, Shi Yang's soul consciousness had locked it. His mind flickered, and the black hole in his soul altar immediately released a powerful suction force. The flying soul altar was stopped and bound by an invisible rope. It was pulled toward Shi Yang's black hole. Souls couldn't scream or yell. They could only send the soul thought. However, under the suction force created by the black hole in Shi Yang's soul altar, that person couldn't even generate a thought. While no one was watching, that soul altar was devoured. A cool, refreshed feeling flooded his sea of consciousness and the soul altar. The blood mark on his god soul glowed brilliantly as if it had just received a marvelous supplement. At the same time, the essence chi from many god bodies of the dead warriors flew out. However, it didn't disperse. It streamed into Shi Yang's acupuncture points, making the vortexes inside spinning crazily. In this darkness, the Heaven Punishment City didn't have only the battle at Leona's manor. Warriors were fighting against each other in small alleys of the city. Whenever they sensed their enemy's soul consciousness, they would attack immediately. People continued to die. Warriors staying in the Heaven Punishment City had at least the true God Realm cultivation base, while the King God Realm warriors made up a large portion of the city's population. When Shi Yang spotted a dead warrior, he was like the ferocious beast inhaling the fresh scent of blood. He would sneakily use the black hole in his soul altar to wolf down the other's soul altar. At the same time, his acupuncture points would take in the essence chi of the dead. When he targeted a killed warrior, he would absorb the energy of the dead body and soul before they scattered. The Heaven Punishment City was now unbearably chaotic. Warriors died unceasingly. At this moment, Shi Yang was the one receiving the greatest benefit. He wandered around the city like a savage beast, devouring the essence chi and soul energy of the dead experts. He didn't spend any bit of his energy or join any battle, but he became the person to continue to gain. He kept walking and absorbing energy. Gradually, his acupuncture points enlarged. The negative energy was torrentially surging in his acupuncture points. The vortexes were revolving to filter and refine the energy. Each of his acupuncture points was shaking, sending unstable ripples. Some strange but marvelous change had quietly happened while he didn't notice. Chapter 847, A Bloody Grand Banquet. Chapter 847, A Bloody Grand Banquet. Shi Yang's acupuncture points swelled while the vortexes inside him spun crazily, generating abundant negative moods. He entered the third sky of rampage uncontrollably. The dead Upanishad was released, creating the God Domain. The thick blood sea appeared outside his God Domain. The Blood Soul Sea, the magic power of the dead Upanishad. Shi Yang wore a cold face, walking slowly in silence. On his way, any warriors standing near his God Domain became perplexed. Then, they acted as if they were under a deadly spell. They had lost their prior thoughts. Now, only the simple desire of slaughtering was in their minds. Warriors inside the dead Upanishad's Blood Soul Sea had negative moods flooding their sea of consciousness. Their soul altars shook anxiously while their minds were controlled. Shortly after, those warriors started to kill each other, whether they were friend or enemy. They all fell into bedevilment. Only the thought of killing remained in their minds. They wanted to destroy everything, killing every creature. The massacre became fiercer because of Shi Yang. With his divine ability called the Blood Soul Sea, the battle became bloodier. Shi Yang was numb as though he had no emotion at all. He looked like he was enjoying this bloody grand banquet. Sauntering forward, Shi Yang didn't attack anyone or have any strange movement. His God Domain was instinctively released. The negative moods were like invisible robes tying down everybody come near him. The crowd of warriors near him became dull and perplexed, seeing that they just acted by their most basic fighting instinct. Naturally, more warriors fell. Under the Blood Soul Sea, they had lost their minds, slaughtering each other until one died. When a soul altar escaped the god body, Shi Yang would release his soul altar with the black hole to engulf it. Shortly after, 5 soul altars disappeared into the black hole in Shi Yang's soul altar. His eyes became as red as blood. Whenever a warrior died, the warrior's essence chi, which hadn't scattered into earth and heaven yet, would be absorbed into Shi Yang's acupuncture points. Gradually, his acupuncture points felt more painful. He was shaking. Trying to press down the annoyance in his god body, Shi Yang still moved forward, wandering around the area where there were more battles. He was using a method which made him undetectable. His god domain was getting more soul altars as more people dead. The god domain of the dead Upanishad had the soul burial ground on the outside, which could absorb the soul aura of living people. Shi Yang's vigorous god body stayed inside. When the energy rolled into his body, his mind became calm and lucid. He didn't need to worry about falling into bedevilment. And he walked like that around the Heaven Punishment City. Wherever he passed by, the battles became wilder and fiercer. This situation was too good for his development. While Leona comprehended the Dark Upanishad to use the absolute darkness to shroud the entire Heaven Punishment City, Fei Lan was battling many experts on the other side. They drew away most of the attention. That was why nobody had noticed Shi Yang's stealthy and lethal deeds. Since Fei Lan was too intimidating, no one paid attention to Shi Yang. He could wreak as much havoc as he pleased. The battles continued. Eventually, however, they started to calm down. On Fei Lan's side, the original God Realm experts had to bear the loss. As they now knew it was hard to break that tough defense to attack Leona, they gradually ceased their attacks. At the moment, it seemed like Leona had passed the critical point of her fusion with the Heart of Darkness and understanding the Dark Power Upanishad. She was able to control the situation now. The absolute darkness that had shrouded the Heaven Punishment City was expanding, covering the whole land of God punishment. When her progress came to the last phase, she could control that dark power, shrinking the darkness coverage towards her location. After a while, a light appeared near the edge of the Heaven Punishment City. The light that was confined shined one last time. Seeing this sign, people understood that Leona's comprehending progress was about to be complete. After a while, an unknown soul energy fluctuation shot out furiously from Leona's location. After a second, all the dark powers seemed to find the drain port, overflowing massively into Leona's area. Then, the space above that location twisted and the mana collapsed into the ground. Instantaneously, Leona's aura disappeared into thin air. The absolute darkness that had covered the Heaven Punishment City for 2 hours vanished. Light appeared again over the Heaven Punishment City. At Leona's area, people were sitting on the ground. They looked distressed and pale. Many bodies were scattered around. The ones who were still alive were the most intimidating existences of the Heaven Punishment City, which included Feng Ku, Russell, Genong, Jester, and Barrett. Surprisingly, Carthew, Li Yufeng, Aogu Duo, and Bai Tian were also in this group. However, their situation was really terrible. Aogu Duo, Carthew, Bai Tian, and Li Yufeng had obviously been through fierce battles. They had blood all over their body. Feng Ku, Russell, Genong, Barrett, and Jester were the local original god realm of the Heaven Punishment City, but their situation wasn't so good. They had to catch their breaths, their faces tired. 10 miles away from them stood Ao Jera, Zi Yarrow, and Feng Rao, the juniors with lower realms. They stood on the ruins of the houses, looking at that area with fright. The earth-shaking battle seemed to have settled. However, no one knew what happened in that battle or how fierce it was except for the ones who had joined it. Zi Yarrow, Ao Jera, and Feng Rao were the first ones to arrive in this area. They could feel the energy impacts, but they didn't know who was battling whom. Due to the darkness shrouding, they could only use the soul consciousness to sense. However, the King God Realm soul consciousness would be affected, resulted in the damage to the soul. Thus, no one dared to take risks to go nearer. Those who were at the original God Realm gathered outside of Leona's stone room. They all participated in this battle. However, none of them showed the happiness of a victory. They seemed to be damaged, standing or sitting with a grimace. No one knew what they were thinking. Leona's garden wasn't large. It was around 10 mu of land. At this moment, an abyss that they couldn't see the bottom appeared in the garden, giving people a wicked and strange feeling. Around 100 houses were crushed into nothingness. Dust hovered in the air that hadn't settled yet. At first glance, this area seemed to be ground. Everything was destroyed. The original God Realm experts stayed in ruins, looking at each other with hostility, saying nothing. Standing outside the scene, Zi Yarrow, Feng Rao, Feng Xiao, Ao Jera, Yalan, and Taimu gawked in fear. Several thousand warriors of the Heaven Punishment City gathered around the area of the original God Realm experts, but no one dared to approach. They stood there, looking anxiously. The eroding energy that had scared the entire Heaven Punishment City had disappeared. In the void, The exhausted fist-sized divine crystals turned white-gray. They were still floating and hadn't fallen down yet. Those crystals had created a vague net with a thick mesh, enveloping 10 miles. All the original God Realm experts were standing inside the coverage of that stone net. From 10 miles outside, several thousand onlookers weren't included in the coverage of the big net. The hermit who had created the net seemed to aim at only the original God Realm experts. Warriors who didn't cross the line wouldn't be affected. However, the ones who dared to jump in all died, except for those at the original God Realm. Hundreds of corpses from different forces were the harsh evidence for this theory. Everybody kept silent. Whether they were the experts at the original God Realm or the onlookers at the King God Realm, they all had grimaced at the shattered aftermath of the battle. They felt bitter, their eyes worried. No one knew whether that hermit had left or not. Thus, since they couldn't see or sense that hermit's aura, none of them dared to act rashly. Feng Ku, Li Yufeng, and Aogu duo didn't dare to jump into that deep abyss to find Leona, even though they were intimidating experts at the original God Realm. As Zi Yarrow, Feng Rao, Feng Xiao, and the others had only the King God Realm cultivation base, they didn't dare to intrude the 10-mile area to ask for their precursors or family members' situation. They just watched from a distance, waiting for something. He must have left already, right? Feng Ku sat on a pile of crushed stone. He talked uncertainly after a while. Russell, Genong, and Barrett sat near him. They just beamed a forced smile and answered nothing. We were treated differently. He didn't consider us his enemies. He just didn't want us to come near. Feng Ku contemplated for seconds, then said, "We can confirm that he's a member of the Heaven Punishment City. As long as we, the local warriors, stay honest, he won't touch us." Pausing for a while, he continued, "Those who wanted to take advantages of the situation, of course, didn't receive a decent ending." While he was talking, he raked through the bodies scattering around, frowning. "It's my luck that I survived this time as well," Barrett sighed, shaking his head. "Too powerful. Today, I finally know that we're too weak compared to the real experts." While they were talking, Aogu duo, Carthew, Li Yufeng from the Li family, and Bai Tian from the Underworld League on the other side were looking at each other, furrowing their brows. They were trying to restore their aura while pondering. Fei Lan didn't show mercy when attacking them. They were all wounded, their condition wasn't good. "Look. Over there. Over there." Suddenly, the noise arose from the onlookers outside. More warriors turned around to look behind their back. Feng Rao and Zi Yarrow turned around to look. They were shaken immediately with fear. Chapter 848, I'm sorry, I will choose him. Chapter 848, I'm sorry, I will choose him. People stared at the place where the battles were the most fierce. Dozens of King God Realm warriors attacked each other as though they were all crazy, not knowing whether the opponent was from their side or not. They seemed to not feel pain as well. A thick blood-colored mist and sea of blood released brutal and wicked energy fluctuations. It seemed that the red hue could affect people's soul alter at once. Just at first glance, their souls looked like they were sinking deep into it. Only a lucid man was floating in the middle of the blood sea. It was Shi Yang. Wicked energy flooded the blood sea. Shi Yang hovered with a cold face and garnet eyes. He just watched the battles idly as if he didn't know that he was the one who had initiated this. Inside the blood sea, blood splashed everywhere. Parts of human bodies were scattered on the ground, which belonged to those who had battled to the death. Looking further, they found more withered corpses on the road. They seemed to be bled to death. Someone counted almost 100 corpses on the street. Blood mist hovered and wound around. The eccentric, evil aura slowly arose. Looking at the blood mist and the blood sea, the warriors couldn't help but feel very anxious and uneasy, as if they had to jump in there and fight as well. The onlookers were frightened, seeing the young man with his bizarre and wicked energy fluctuation. A chill went down their spines. So odd and cunning. After all, what kind of power could make people act crazily like that? They didn't recognize their comrades who had been fighting with them for so many years. They were all battling fiercely until someone died. What is going on? That man is the boy who has defeated Black Horn. He has competed with Barrett for young Lady Feng Rao. Ah, it's him again. But why does he look so evil right now? Look. Many people are dying on the street. Did he kill them all? Who knows? But I'm sure this kid isn't ordinary. At the second sky of King Godrealm, he was able to create this bizarre situation, which is enough to prove that his power Upanishad is one of the most mysterious and wicked powers. We shouldn't mess with this kid anyway. Osha *T, he's a real slaughtering machine. Right, we should stay away from him. Or else, I'm sure we will be involved in something terrible. Everybody discussed boisterously. They temporarily forgot that the original Godrealm experts were sitting behind them to adjust their condition in silence. Now, they kept their eyes on Shiyang. Little sister. Feng Xiao was bewildered for a while. Suddenly, he became stiff and serious. He cried out, "Our people are being attacked and killed." Feng Rao discolored. She cleared her mind, taking in a cold breath before flying out and heading towards Shiyang. As soon as she was about to reach him, she shouted, "Stop it." Zi Yaro's bright eyes got colder looking at the woman. She couldn't help but snort as she disliked her. This was the first time Zi Yaro saw Feng Rao. Studying the woman, she felt more annoyed. Feng Rao's evil charm and her care for Shiyang made Zi Yaro instinctively upset. She couldn't explain why she felt irritated. She just thought that she should be the one who tried to stop him, not Feng Rao. However, she didn't dare expose herself. She was a princess of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, the enemy of the Heaven Punishment City. She also didn't have the original God Realm cultivation base. If people spotted her, it would be hard to escape. "Stop it. Quickly." Feng Rao shouted hastily. Hearing her frightened shout, Shiyang's blood eyes flashed. He took a deep breath as if he had been awakened from a strange realm. After 15 minutes, the god domain he had released was retrieved. The blood mist wound around the sky disappeared as if it was sucked into a space slit. His garnet eyes gradually resumed their normal color. However, the bloody aura on his body was still terrifying and intimidating. Bloody Slaughterer Ka Tuor and Ka Fu stood in the crowd, looking at him from a far distance, their visage baffled. They had come with Shi Yang originally. However, they lost him along the way. Staying in the darkness and a chaotic place of disorderly soul consciousness, they couldn't find Shi Yang. As most of the warriors were heading toward Leona's location, they thought that they would meet him there. They didn't expect that after being separated briefly, Shi Yang would change so much. He surprised and frightened the crowd of the warriors in the Heaven Punishment City. "I need to go for a while." Shi Yang suddenly extended one arm. An unknown flow of murderous aura congregated in his palm. An invisible force snatched Feng Rao's soft body, preventing her from approaching him. "I'll be back shortly. If you want to depart the expedition to explore the star map, just go. You don't need to wait for me." Shi Yang didn't wait for Feng Rao to respond. He faced the sky and screamed. The void echoed a whistle just like a sharp sword tearing the sky. A dazzling space slit appeared above his head. He immediately flew into the crack, not waiting for the others to react. He disappeared in a blink. Feng Rao hurried to come to him, but a barrier had stopped her. She could only see him leaving, unable to do anything else. That space slit just flashed then closed. That area was flat, having no streaks of being torn once. As soon as Shi Yang disappeared strangely, the negative energy had gone altogether. Those insane warriors gradually resumed their clear minds. They stopped fighting. "Dude. My brother. Why are you dead? Brother. Damn. What's happened? What happened? Why did we fight with each other? How come? Who did it? You will be our enemies forever." After the warriors regained control of themselves, they looked around and found that their death-or-life opponent were their friends and brothers who they shared many memories with. They burst out angrily, shouting and cursing. They were so enraged that they wanted to find the person who caused all these things to take revenge and make him pay a big bloody price for what he'd done. Too bad, Shi Yang had left a long time ago. They couldn't find him. "Young lady, our master does have sharp eyes. I couldn't understand him, but now I got it. I'm totally convinced. Alad put on a strangely solemn visage, speaking. The devil deeds Shi Yang had performed today was much more dazzling than his battle against Blackhorn. Many King God Realm warriors were dead under the effects of his powers. Many warriors had gone insane, killing each other. And Shi Yang acted unnaturally calm, floating in the bloody mist. He looked like a judge of hell casually looking at the scene that scared people out of their wits. Alad was now convinced and admired him. He suddenly said with emotions, "If you marry this man, he will be a great support to our master's hegemony. My young lady, this man won't be a frog in the pond. Sooner or later, he will become the hottest star in the raging flamestar area." The beautiful eyes of Bai Ru showed that she was stunned. She looked in the direction Shi Yang had disappeared, her mind in disorder. She still remembered when she first met Shi Yang. On the 6th herbal star of the Underworld League, Shi Yang was just a human body cauldron at that time that Nita had been using. She hadn't put him in her eyes. They just wanted to use his abundant blood chi to produce medicines and break through to the second sky of King God Realm. That year, Shi Yang was just a small character not worth mentioning. At that time, he hadn't been eligible to talk to her. However, it has not been a long time. Not more than 10 years later, that small character had entered the second sky of King God Realm from his second sky of True God Realm. They were at the same realm, but his real competence had surpassed hers. After this short period, that small character had thrived intimidatingly at a speed they couldn't imagine. To recruit this man, her father wanted to sacrifice her life's happiness. She couldn't understand why. She bore a grudge against her father for his ruthless and heartless deed. She hated her father because he had cruelly interfered with her life. However, seeing the cold man floating in the middle of the blood mist, she didn't know why her heart suddenly shivered. The lake in her heart rippled marvelously as if someone had thrown a rock in it. She understood that no matter what her future would be, that scene would always be engraved in her heart. A cold and unfeeling man could always catch the eyes of women in the raging flamestar area, and she wasn't an exception. "Your Highness, if you can't recruit him one more time, you have to destroy him at any cost," said Aojera in a low tone while stooping down so nobody could see his real emotions. Zi Yarrow's body shivered. Her beautiful eyes were misty. Aojera's correct. Carthew suddenly stormed out. He was the first one leaving that area. He seemed to not be afraid of the hermit in the dark. Carthew's visage was grim. His too dangerous. His much more excellent than his majesty when he was young. If he marries Feng Rao, the Heaven Punishment City will become the fourth strong force of the raging flamestar area. It will threaten the overlord position of the divine nation. "Sir, but Shi Yang," Yalan opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. "If he works for the divine nation, it will benefit our fortune. If he becomes our enemy, it will be a big disaster," Carthew sobbed, talking with emotions. Zi Yarrow's beautiful eyes sparkled with a dim light. Looking at the place where Shi Yang had disappeared, her heart was beating hard. However, she kept quiet. "Your Highness," Aojera lifted his head, his eyes sharp. Zi Yarrow's soft body shook. She turned around to look at him. With an ice-like visage, she said deliberately, "If I could choose only one between you and Shi Yang, I'm sorry. I would choose him." Aojera looked like he was struck. He paled, clutching his heart. He then said with a miserable smile, "So, that's it. I'm a fool. I'm AF** King Fool. If you haven't attacked him and if you haven't joined the other to attack me, I wouldn't have said that. What did my brother Du Jiao promise you that resulted in you giving him my information? Why did you end up waiting by my side?" Zi Yarrow suddenly became strong. She didn't hide her disgust anymore, speaking coldly. "Compared to you, he may be callous and wicked, but at least he wouldn't have acted so stealthily to manipulate me. He wouldn't have many faces like you, and he wouldn't change his face behind my back." Good talk." Aojera smiled miserably. "Turns out I'm such a person in your heart. I finally wake up today. My uncle is right. In the eyes of the sort of woman like you, it is only about benefits and values. Every man has clear value in your eyes. Today, His value is greater than mine. He has surpassed me. That's why you chose him, right? It's your business no matter how you think about that, Zi Yarrow sighed, waving her hand as she felt so heavy inwardly. You should go. My glorious amethyst star isn't a good place for you. I hope you can have a better world staying with Sir Aogu Duo. All right. I also want to see if Shi Yang ends up giving you all that you want in the end. We should clean our eyes and see. Aojera nodded. He turned around and left resolutely. Chapter 849, Burn Your Hand, Feel the Heat. Chapter 849, Burn Your Hand, Feel the Heat. Uncle Carthew, how did you dare to get out? Zi Yarrow quietly saw Aojera leaving. She knew that from now on, this man would walk the same way with Aogu Duo. He might become her biggest obstacle in the future. She didn't know why she felt relief, as if she had finally thrown away the weight on her shoulder. She was so happy she couldn't say why. Aojera had been with her for many years. For her, he had gone against Aogu Duo's calls. He had helped her manage the glorious amethyst star well. However, she understood that ambitious Aojera also had many wild schemes working for her. Because he liked her and he wanted to have her, Aojera could give up everything to work for her. However, since she knew he had done many dark schemes behind her back, and she finally got to know his real character, she couldn't feel comfortable facing him anymore. As Aojera had reminded her today of dealing with Shi Yang and killing him, he had eventually enraged her. Thus, she didn't hesitate to retort. I dared get out of there because I know that person wouldn't harm me. Carthew beamed a faint smile, his look strange. That hermit wants to protect Leona. Although I don't know why I can understand him. Pausing for a while, Carthew lowered his voice. Those original God Realm experts who came here, all had the thought of killing Leona. It's obviously to Feng Ku, Russell, Jianong, and Barrett of the Heaven Punishment. Anyway, Bai Tian, Li Yufeng, and even Aogu Duo wanted to kill Leona. Zi Yarrow's face changed as she nodded silently. This is also why I want to make the limit with Aojera. Aogu Duo's an overlord of a force of the divine nation. However, he got the bad scheme of ambushing Madame Leona while she was advancing her divine nation, which goes against the interest of the divine nation. Since they have a close relation, he and Aojera will stand on the same side at the critical moment. They seems to have some other plot. It's true that Aogu Duo wants Leona to die. He didn't want her to advance her power Upanishad. In the recent battle, he was attacked the most. Hence, he got the most serious wounds. Carthew sneered, his face strange. And me, among many people in that garden, is the only one that didn't want Leona to get hurt. I wanted to protect her. Maybe that hermit got my intention. He didn't attack me from the beginning to the end. In that crowd of original God Realm experts, I'm the only one who wasn't affected. Listening to him, Zi Yarrow's eyes brightened, yelling lightly. You're saying that? Is the person protected Madame Leona a precursor of our divine nation? No way, Carthew beamed a forced smile. Your Highness, you're overthinking. If he had worked for the divine nation, Feng Ku and Russell wouldn't have been at ease like that in the Heaven Punishment. I can say that he has some relationship with Madame Leona, and nothing related to the divine nation. Oh, Zi Yarrow nodded, looking at the further area. Seems we don't need to worry about being disclosed. Yeah, many hotshots are gathering in the Heaven Punishment. Bai Tian, Li Yufeng, and Aogu Duo are all at the second sky of original God Realm. With Feng Ku's forces, he couldn't control the whole situation. And, as we have a hermit staying in the dark to guard the place, no one would dare to ignite the war again. Carthew smiled then added, it's good that you have a clear line with Aojera. Perhaps that kid won't have doubts anymore. With your talent and appearance, it shouldn't be a hard task to recruit that kid one more time. Right. Carthew smiled and said nothing else. Zi Yarrow's face blushed. She cursed under her breath then bit her lower lip. It's good that he's all right. Carthew just smiled, didn't talk more. Uncle, Aojera walked alone in piles of debris. He stopped by Aogu Duo and said, Princess Zi Yarrow and I broke up. Aogu Duo had so many wounds on his legs, his face pale. Listening to his nephew, evil light sparkled in his eyes. What happened? Aojera squeezed a smile, sighing. She's chosen Shiyang. Aogu Duo snorted. Women. Especially the ones born in the royal family, they have only interest in their eyes. They don't have true loves. Seems you just wasted your time for nothing. I woke up. I won't put her in my heart anymore, nodded Aojera. Yeah, it's good then. Having no knot in the heart, you can increase your power easier. With your natural endowment, you will surpass everyone else in the divine nation. Until that day, that woman won't escape your hand. However, it will come with the premise that you are powerful enough, said Aogu Duo in a low tone. I got it. I will wholeheartedly follow powers. Just like you, I will seek the breakthrough to the acme of the martial path, Aogu Duo said solemnly. We should go. Aogu Duo slowly got up. Looking at the abyss in the middle of ruins, he turned around shortly, leaving with Aojera without any hesitation. Bai Tian and Li Yufeng of the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce exchanged looks. Then they got up, leaving without saying anything. Bai Ru, Alad, and the warriors of the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce gathered from different directions, following the 2-second sky of original God Realm experts. They disappeared shortly. Feng Ke's group just stared at them leaving. They didn't stop the others. However, their face was solemn and heavy. No matter it was Aogu Duo, Bai Tian, or Li Yufeng, they were all at the second sky of original God Realm. Their real competence should be stronger than Feng Ke's. At this moment, the heaven punishment wasn't controlled by the 4 leaders anymore. If those 3 didn't want to quarrel with Feng Ke, he would want to burn some incense sticks already. Of course, Feng Ke's group didn't dare to act rashly. Those warriors, who shouldn't appear in the heaven punishment, left arrogantly. Along their way, many pirates were scared, making way for them proactively as if they were afraid that they would welcome trouble to their life. No one dared to explore that dark abyss. Although they knew it's possible that Leona was still in that chasm, they decided not to mind it. They acted as if nothing had happened. People detached, leaving quietly. The protector in the dark was too scary. It's obvious that he wanted to protect Leona. Unless they were confident of their realm, if they provoked the other, they couldn't bear the consequences. Why did you guys scream just previously? On the way back, Bai Tian turned around, asking Bai Ru and Alad with a little surprise. Alad was shaken. He hastened to lively narrate what he had witnessed. His face was full of excitement and respect. Commander, you have such a bright vision. That kid has an imposing potential. Now, I'm convinced that if he marries Our Lady Bai Ru, it will be a big assistance to your hegemony. Listening to Alad, Bai Tian's eyes brightened, but then, he sighed. Young hero. Bai Ru bit her lower lip, her face pale strangely. She didn't say anything, so they didn't know what she was thinking. Little Ru, what do you think? Asked Bai Tian all of a sudden. What? Bai Ru was bewildered, lifted her head anxiously. I didn't hear you clearly. What do you think about that kid? Bai Tian smiled, repeating his question. A little bit excellent. Bai Ru mumbled her answer, her beautiful eyes bright. More dangerous than anyone I've met. I'd wronged him. If I had known he could have such performance, I would have kept him at any cost. Including getting married to him? Bai Tian chuckled, teasing his daughter. Father. Don't tease me. You're annoying. Bai Ru stooped shyly. She seemed to be touched, didn't resist furiously anymore. Women in the raging Flamestar area would enthrone the strong. Wild and stubborn young hotshots would attract their eyes better. Bai Ru wasn't an exception. Shiyang's performance made her see him in a new aspect. The annoyance she got about him seemed to be smashed down. The lake in her heart now had a hunky figure, who was playing the strings of her heart, making her uneasy. All right, I'll be on this. When we see him again, I will force him to marry you. Bai Tian laughed as his mood wasn't bad. Nasty, Bai Ru screamed in a low tone. Apparently, she didn't oppose this opinion. Father, what happened? Feng Rao and Feng Xiao walked behind Feng Ku, couldn't help but ask. We were trying to kill Leona. We thought that the experts of the three forces would disturb us. We didn't expect that all had the same purpose. Then, we joined hands to fight. What a pity the hermit had dissolved our attacks. He even hurt us. Fengku took a deep breath, his face strange. I didn't know that the three forces have an internal problem like that. They seized the chance when darkness fell on the heaven punishment to attack Leona. Aogu duo of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation also did that. Haha, I used to worry that our business couldn't be all right when so many warriors came like that. But now I feel more secure. At the moment, the heaven punishment had three forces, including the 9-star Chamber of Commerce, the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, and the Underworld League. However, none of them was strong enough to resist the local forces of the heaven punishment. If they joined hands, Fengku couldn't keep the star map, let alone carrying the expedition. However, after this battle, Fengku realized that the three big forces didn't like each other. They would never unite. They were different from Fengku, Russell, Jianong, and Barrett. At the critical moment when the latter had to face the three forces, they would unite without any barrier of grudges. Moreover, the hermetic expert of the heaven punishment was on their side, apparently. Thus, Fengku was confident that he could engage in the war with the three forces. Shi Yang appeared, and he created a big commotion. Feng Xiao intervened, narrating what he had seen, his face grim. Father, Shi Yang's absolutely a dangerous person. He's a two-bladed sword. If we can use him, he will be a tremendous support. But if we make a mistake, I'm afraid the damage would be doubled. Fengku listened to his son seriously, his face became solemn. That kid isn't easy to deal with. I'm so surprised he could be so powerful. Little Rao, what do you think? As long as I'm here, he won't consider us enemies. Father, if we can find the new star area and give him a star life, I think he will appreciate us, and it will make him on our side honestly, said Feng Rao solemnly. I won't be stingy. Don't worry. He has proven himself. Who in the heaven punishment or even in the raging flame star area dares to look down on him? Fengku said with a stern face. His name will be spread over the raging flame star area. No one would dare underestimate him. I know what to do. Thank you, Father, smiled Feng Rao. He disappeared. We don't know when he will show himself again. This kid is truly mysterious, sighed Fengku. He will reappear. I think, when he shows himself, it will be a big surprise. Perhaps, he will be even stronger. Feng Rao mumbled to herself. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tender affections. Chapter 850, Blood Formation. Chapter 850, Blood Formation. Shi Yang didn't hide too far away. He was floating in the vast starry sky outside the land of God punishment. He was still, not moving a finger. However, bloody murderous chi was still hovering around his body. Negative moods were moving disorderly in his soul altar, surging his sea of consciousness. Starlight from the immense starry sea and from the unknown, further areas came and congregated in his body. Besides the think murderous chi, he also felt cool, which helped him relax. It contained the energy of the stars in outer space. The nebula inside the vortex at his lower abdomen slowly moved. The star floating amidst the nebula became more dazzling, releasing a strong suction force that was continually pulling and absorbing starlight. Starlight sprayed like rain, gathering at the vortex in his lower abdomen before rolling massively into that star. Shi Yang felt the effects of the negative moods get reduced. The vortexes in 720 acupuncture points were revolving and refining the essence chi massively. During this process, his acupuncture points were enlarged and swollen, giving him annoying pains. After the black hole in his soul altar had taken in the soul energy, it was carrying out the same refining process. Shi Yang's god soul couldn't calm down even for a moment. At this moment, his situation wasn't good. After an unknown time, the thick murderous chi in his body diluted and faded away. The evil moods that nibbled at his soul stopped. Then, he used the god soul to discharge them from his heart. Gradually, the mysterious energy started to ooze out from his acupuncture points, flowing towards his god soul. Shi Yang then guided it toward the essence chi ancient tree to refill the energy he had consumed. Fishing in troubled water in the Heaven Punishment City gave him great benefits. 23 King God Realm warriors were dead by furious fights under his deadly influence. He had discreetly absorbed the essence chi of those dead warriors. It was so thick and abundant he had never had before. He understood that he needed time for the refining process and that he couldn't be safe waiting in the Heaven Punishment City for a long time. Thus, he used space power to leave instantly to the vast starry sea outside the land of God punishment. In there, he wouldn't be disturbed while calming down the seething changes in his body. Shortly after, more and more mysterious energy gushed out from his acupuncture points. They murmured like invisible streams through his veins. The mysterious energy started to restore his flesh body miraculously. Shi Yang's immortal martial spirit started to create the immortal demon blood with the supply of the mysterious energy. A large amount of mysterious energy seeped into his god body. His body started to swell like a gas balloon. At this moment, his entire body had turned blood red, which looked scary and ferocious at the same time. The mysterious energy moved quickly in his veins. It was then condensed by the immortal martial spirit. A drop of immortal demon blood full of vigorous energy was produced, hiding deep inside his flesh body. Closing his eyes, Shi Yang didn't think much and just tried to maintain this condition. His god soul was crystal clear, free of any impurities. His god body was instinctively producing immortal demon blood. After a while, slowly, no more mysterious oozed out from his acupuncture points. At this moment, Shi Yang looked like he had just woken up, opening his eyes. His soul consciousness started to check his body. He found that his body had produced several hundred drops of immortal demon blood. This time, the quantity of immortal demon blood produced was much more than any previous time. His thought flickers as he tried to put the drops of immortal demon blood into the veins to replace his own blood. Crack, crack, crack. Clear cracking sounds echoed in his body like thunder or much more like dashing drum beats. With the cracking sounds in his bones, his garments suddenly exploded, turning into dust and scattering. His blood-red naked body was exposed together with his refined, intimidating. Each muscle of his seemed to be brimming with the earth-shattering energy. They were enlarging, triggering more energy. His blood veins became tremendously tenacious and his bones were like the toughest metal that would never be broken by even divine weapons. Vigorous energy rolled torrentially in his internal organs. The blood chi was so thick and dense it made him shiver. It seemed that he now had an infinite source of power that he could use or simply waste. The immortal demon blood flooded his veins. At this moment, Shi Yang couldn't control his body but enter the third sky of rampage. His eyes became bloodshot. The brutal, violent thoughts immersed in his mind. He suddenly wanted to kill all kinds of creatures. It seemed like the meaning of his existence was to destroy. He came to end every creature, taking away their life prestige. This frightful thought appeared like a seal in his head, like a cruel whisperer in his ear, making him slaughter without thinking. It felt like when he killed something, he gained the marvelous happiness. It was like bedevilment. Thump, 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 thump. His heart beat strongly and vigorously. The vibration gradually expanded to his whole body. He started to shake. The blood-red mist hovered around his body while the thoughts of slaughtering creatures multiplied in his head. The negative moods he had struggled to stop had burst out 10 times greater as if they wanted to devour his mind at once. He was scared, petrified because of the vehement killing desire. He didn't want to lose his mind and become a monster that only wanted to kill. Taking a deep breath, he lifted his head to look at the sky. Starlight sparkled brilliantly in his eyes. He had to make his mind lucid. Then, he used the God Soul to control the nebula in the vortex in his lower abdomen to take in more star energy. Star energy fell like a dense sprinkle, covering his God body. The starlight was bright and cool. It was like an invisible hand stroking and calming down the devil's thoughts and negative emotions, preventing him from falling into bedevilment or losing his mind forever. He suddenly understood that he had absorbed too much essence chi from the dead this time. It was over his endurance. That was why he couldn't keep his mind as clear as he used to do. The cool star energy circulated in his body while Shi Yang thought about the trajectory of the nebula in his lower abdomen and the change of the galaxy his god soul could feel, trying to match them. All of a sudden, Shi Yang and countless stars in outer space had a vague connection. The starlight zoomed over his eyes, turning into the meteors' shootings toward his god body. The god soul was shaken. The soul altar revolved fast while the star power fluctuation in the soul altar's tier of power Upanishad became mysterious and hard to detect. His chaotic consciousness was suppressed, becoming quiet. Deep inside his eyes was where the starlight sparkled. In his body, the nebula in the vortex in his lower abdomen became dazzling. Numerous star dots started to form a connection with the stars in outer space. It seemed like the nebula in his body had included all the stars in outer space. The small stars twinkled brightly inside the nebula in his lower abdomen. Just like lit-up lanterns, they surrounded the biggest star in there, moving in the magical course of the stars. His consciousness became panicked. Starlight sparkled in his eyes, but he was baffled as if he had fallen into an unknown condition, wishing to answer some questions for his cultivation. At the same time, a large amount of starlight that fell from the sky congregated in his god body, making him a glorious star, which seemed to have gravity applied to other stars. Negative moods that multiplied in his head had left unknowingly. The mysterious energy oozing from his acupuncture points was wandering around his body like stars scattered in the sky. And the immortal demon blood in his body gradually quieted down, no longer giving him more desire to kill. Shi Yang watched the starry sky. He seemed to be enchanted by the gorgeous marvel of the galaxy in the dome of heaven. Then, he fell into the mysterious phase of understanding star power Upanishad. Thump 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 thump. The strong heartbeat didn't stop. The vibration from the heart expanded to his entire god body, making him sway in rhythm. After each shake, more starlight shot towards him, sending sparks into the void while the energy entered his body. His god body became translucent like a massive garnet jewel. It was dazzling, gorgeous, and beautiful in an eccentric way, giving people some intimidation from looking at it. His acupuncture points became swollen, giving him a vessel-tearing pain. He felt extreme pain in his internal organs. All burst out together, but the pain couldn't flood into his sea of consciousness. He couldn't feel anything. Shi Yang didn't realize the pain or the fact that his god body was changing, carrying out the magical quenching process one more time. Grey smoke fumed out from pores in his entire body, vanishing in earth and heaven. That grey smoke was the contaminants generated in his god body during the current period. It was the dregs left after he had absorbed energy from different things. If they stayed in his body for a long time, it would reduce the quality of his god body. If he got hit, his bones would crack easily. However, after this time of quenching, his god body changed as if he had experienced resurrection. It was like what happened when he sank into the blood pond when he had just arrived in this world. At that time, his body was shrouded in a bloody cocoon as if he was a chrysalis that hasn't turned into a beautiful butterfly yet. Inside the garnet pupa, he could hear the heartbeat and the violent vibration. It also had the aura of his energy and his circulating star energy. However, this big pupa didn't hinder the star energy from seeping into his god body. While he was under this circumstance, the starlight was still congregating into his body. Not only that, inside the cocoon, his absorbing speed and the productivity had increased several times. Shi Yang stayed inside the blood-red pupa, learning the truth about his star power Upanishad. In the power Upanishad tier of his soul altar, the star energy movement was clear and vibrant. While he didn't recognize it, the extreme pure star energy started to flow out of the black hole in his soul altar. It seeped into the soul altar while a big part of it flooded the heaven flame soul altar. The heaven flames staying in his soul altar became thrilled. That kind of energy had given them a big boost for their growth and ascension. Just like Shi Yang, the heaven flames started to transform. Apparently, at the time he broke this pupa, he would have a marvelous transformation. His realm and power would be upgraded for the second time. Chapter 851, The Overcast Sky. Chapter 851, The Overcast Sky. Blue Demon's headquarters, Heaven Punishment City. The 4 leaders of the pirates, Ku, Genong, Barrett, and Russell, were gathering together with more than 10 other pirate leaders. They were all solemn as they were going to decide whether they should leave or stay in the Heaven Punishment City. "We must go. If we delay, Fan He will catch us shortly." Ku slammed his brows together. He is different from Aogu Duo and Li Yu Feng. Fan He is at the 3rd sky of original God realm. You guys all know his perilous features. It has been years since the 9-star Chamber of Commerce started thriving under Fan He's management. His mighty force is the peak of the entire raging Flamestar area. Everybody fell into silence. Fan He's reputation was widespread in the raging Flamestar area. At the 3rd sky of original God realm, he was the well-known zenith of the raging Flamestar area, which had the same meaning with the word invincible. When such a character suddenly came to the Heaven Punishment City, no one in Ku's group was able to resist. They could be killed instantly right when they saw him. Ku's group didn't think that the hermit in the Heaven Punishment City would risk his life to battle Fan He for them, either. More importantly, no one knew the real intention of that hermit or if he was an equal opponent to Fan He or not. Ku's group also didn't want to entrust their lives in the hands of someone they didn't know. Anyway, when we leave the Heaven Punishment City, they won't be afraid of anything. They would come to take the star map. Aogu Duo, Li Yu Feng, and Bai Tian are all at the 2nd sky of original God realm. They haven't taken action yet because they are afraid of that mysterious hermit. They followed the rules of the Heaven Punishment City. But when we leave the Heaven Punishment City, we're not sure if that hermit will be able to take care of us or not. "It will be big trouble for us then," said a leader of the pirates. This is also why they hadn't come to a conclusion yet. Aogu Duo, Li Yu Feng, and Bai Tian were all at the 2nd sky of original God realm, the same with Ku. However, their real competencies would be 1 level higher. Any force of the said 3 forces was a big threat to them. Once they joined hands, the chance for the pirates to escape was tiny. Are Aogu Duo, Li Yu Feng, Bai Tian stronger than Fan He, the headmaster of the Fan family? Ku contemplated for a while, then gave a low shout. Hearing him, everybody else paled. Russell's eyebrows convulsed. He said with a savage face, "Compared to Fan He, Aogu Duo, and the others are easier to deal with. Fan He has achieved wicked and cruel deeds. He came here because of his dead brother. His wrath of anger will destroy the entire Heaven Punishment City." "What do you mean?" Genong frowned, asking. "Leave. We must leave. Hurry up," Russell said resolutely and decisively. Genong was shaken, nodded. "If you say so, I agree with you." In this group, Russell had the deepest resentment against the Fan family. The thought of killing the Fans was always in his mind. Today, Fan He was coming, which could be one time in a blue moon, but he decided to give it up. The others saw how terrifying Fan He was to him. Russell was famous for being the man to seek revenge for the slightest grievances. He was also a narrow-minded person. If he decided to quit, it left only one possibility as the other was too dangerous. "Any other idea?" Ku raked through the crowd, but he actually just asked Russell, Genong, Barrett, and Jester, because these 4 were like him. They had the original God realm. And he only considered warriors at this level. "I have no idea. I agree to leave." "Me too." "Agreed. Let's go." Russell, Genong, Barrett, and Jester were the 4 experts at the original God realm. They all nodded and expressed that they wanted to leave as soon as possible. When the 5 original God realm experts all came to a conclusion, the others' ideas became trivial. "All right, we should prepare now. I know you are almost finished with our arrangement. We should leave early. We can't delay it any longer." Ku took a deep breath and comforted people. The 3 forces don't get along well. They won't really unite and they aren't familiar with the forbidden lands outside the land of God punishment. And we've united to fight and protect our lives. We know the forbidden lands outside the land of God punishment like the back of our hands. This is our territory. Once we leave the land of God punishment and enter the forbidden lands in outer space, shouldn't we be able to cut them off? Hearing him, everybody calmed down. Even the ones who didn't agree with them had nodded their head. It's true that the land outside the land of God punishment was a matrix of forbidden areas. Many of them were hazardous. People who weren't familiar with the conditions could be punished with fatal consequences. Even if they got the original God realm cultivation base, it wouldn't make them an exception. As long as they could leave the land of God punishment, they could use their information of the surrounding topography to hide safely. Or they could even lure their opponents into the most dangerous area of the Forbidden Lands. We've been well prepared. Russell and the others had arranged everything several days ago. Seeing the others agree with the escape plan, they became excited, preparing to get out of the land of God punishment. Shortly after, war chariots flew across the sky of the Heaven Punishment City like countless locusts swarming the place. It looked magnificent indeed. Those war chariots were in different styles, colors, and shapes. The flags they had indicated their forces. They hovered neatly in the air. No battle. No quarrel. They seemed to be waiting for something. The most ruthless and bloodthirsty pirates of the Heaven Punishment City soared up into the sky from different corners and alleys of the Heaven Punishment City. They aligned with the thick cloud of war chariots, checking their formation for the last mobilization before carrying out the operation. Inside the city, Aogu duo, Carthew, Li Yufeng, and Bai Tian frowned as they looked at the commotion in the sky. They exchanged thoughts using soul consciousness. Not long afterward, their team started to head to the headquarters of the Blue Demon Pirates as they had planned. After 2 hours, experts of the three forces appeared on the spacious street outside the Blue Demon's base. Many shops in the Heaven Punishment City were closed due to the dangerous situation of the city. Warriors who didn't belong to the three big forces came to the Heaven Punishment City to also trade their goods. However, the person was not showing his or her face. The packed street in the past became isolated. They couldn't even see a shadow. Everybody realized that a big catastrophe would happen in the Heaven Punishment City shortly. People who didn't want to get involved in this mess and get killed fled unknowingly all the way. Carthew, Zi Yarrow, Yalan, Taimu, and a dozen warriors under his commands arrived. However, they didn't stand near Aogu duo. They kept a distance from Aogu duo as an independent force. Seeing him come, Aogu duo just frowned, saying nothing. Besides Aogera, his team also had more than 10 warriors who had just arrived. When Aogera saw Zi Yarrow, his blonde hair flew even though there was no wind. His eyes were cold too. He didn't bend to greet her and turned away instead. He didn't want to see her. Although they were the forces of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, Aogu duo and Carthew didn't join hands, let alone Bai Tian and Li Yufeng. If they hadn't known about the big operation of the pirates, they wouldn't have gathered here. 2 days ago, the massive abyss where Leona disappeared had no dark aura anymore. It seemed that Leona had disappeared from the land of God punishment. No one was able to sense her soul energy fluctuation, so no one could know whether she was still in the land of God punishment or not. Not being able to see her made people uneasy and anxious. Since they all knew that Carthew and Leona were close, they weren't so sure if they had contacted discreetly or not. Thus, after Carthew had arrived, Aogu duo, Li Yufeng, and Bai Tian had to frown, saying nothing. You came on time. The pirates are going to leave the land of God punishment. What do you think? Aogu duo asked after pondering for a while. I don't know. Anyway, I won't attack them inside the city. But if you guys want to attack after they've left the Heaven Punishment City, I have no objections. Carthew smiled, his visage calm and natural. He acted as if he didn't care about the star map. What do you think? Aogu duo looked at Li Yufeng and Bai Tian. I'm sure that we can't attack them in the Heaven Punishment City. Li Yufeng wore a ferocious and malignant face. I mean, we'll give them time to leave the city. Then, we will see if that hermit still wants us to stop. Then, we will discuss again. What do you think? I have the same idea, laughed Bai Tian. That person in the city is too strong. I don't want to enrage him. If he doesn't interfere, those pirates can't do anything. All right, we will let them leave the city. First, we will kill the pirates. Then, You guys should depend on your own competences. Aogu duo agreed immediately. The powerful characters of the three big forces exchanged looks. They immediately agreed. They planned that after Feng Ku and his people had left the Heaven Punishment City, they would start to attack fiercely. After they were done with the pirates, they would compete against each other to get the star map. As they had determined their plan, they didn't talk more, scattering and discussing with their own people for a detailed plan. Rumble, rumble, rumble. After 1 hour, battleships and war chariots in the sky roared, rocketing through the atmosphere, heading to the star area outside the land of God Punishment. The clouds of battleships and chariots didn't line up. It diverged into so many different paths. They scattered like schools of fishes swimming to different river branches. In outer space, they changed their direction, heading to different regions. The energy crystals triggered at once. They flashed like lightning strikes in the sky. They seemed to know the plan of the three big forces, not wanting to give them a chance to catch them all at once. That's why they decided to use this plan. Indeed, seeing the pirates flee away was nice. Each flow included pirates, battleships and war chariots from different organizations. Aogu Duo's team was perplexed. They didn't know which flow they should pursue or which battleship or war chariot Feng Ku was hiding in. Having no other option around, Aogu Duo, Carthew, Li Yufeng, and Bai Tian could only diverge and chase after the pirates. They tried to sense the 4 strongest auras among the others. For the time being, people saw lights shooting across the sky of the land of God Punishment like the rainbows. They all zoomed to the horizon, tearing the dome of the high sky. The war which would shake the entire raging flamestar area slowly began at this moment. And Shi Yang, he was still floating in the starry sea of outer space inside his blood pupa, waiting for the moment to emerge from his chrysalis. Chapter 852, Shi Yang's Face. Chapter 852, Shi Yang's Face. War chariots tore the sky and stormed into the immense starry sea like lightning strikes. Experts from the three big forces also released their surging powers, rocketing into the sky from the Heaven Punishment City. They diverged into 4 flows, chasing after pirates who were going into the land of God Punishment. Countless lightning strikes suddenly appeared in the vast sky. They also saw flames, ice mines, etc. Beautiful wonders created by different god domains bloomed in the starry sky of the land of God Punishment. They colored a marvelous but dangerous picture. Bloody slaughterer Ka-Tuor and Ka-Fu sat in the tiger shark war chariots, mingling with the other pirates. As they were assigned by Feng Ku, they were heading toward a forbidden land outside the land of God Punishment. Flags of different pirate organizations flew in the starry sky. Battleships and war chariots whistled and roared like savage beasts that were swaggering in earth and heaven. They fired scorching light, flames, and smoke. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sibilant sounds of the swift-moving chariots pierced their ears. Ka-Tuor and Ka-Fu waited in silence, releasing their soul consciousness. They didn't dare to relax for even a moment, putting up guard. Watch out! Ka-Tuor's pupils shrank. He shouted from the tiger shark war chariot, his face solemn. Boom! The dazzling white light crossed the sky like meteors, shot from their battleships and war chariots. A several 100-meter battleship was pierced through. Some King God Realm warriors who weren't vigilant enough were crushed into meatballs. Hiss hiss. The siren-like hissing seemed to not stop. More scorching white lights were shot over. They looked like shiny sharp swords, bombarding the several 100-meter battleship and making it look like a beehive. Many pirates died. However, they weren't Ka-Tuor's men. Where's Feng Ku? A low voice thundered in the middle of the pirates' war chariots and battleship. Bai Tian, the general commander of the Underworld League, appeared with dozens of experts behind him. They released the god domains, their auras ancient and strong. While they were talking, sounds of water murmuring arose from Bai Tian's body. He threw both hands into the air, tearing something in the void. 2 water dragons of 1,000 meters were condensed. They faced the sky, roared and stormed to the pirates to slaughter them. The 1,000-meter water dragons were condensed from 10,000 tons of water with tremendous power. Bai Tian used his soul to control them. While they turned their head and flagged their tail, they had crushed the shabby battleship into fragments. 10,000 catties water, Bai Tian shouted. Water drops shot out from his 10 fingers, each of them as heavy as 10,000 catties. A drop of this black water was like a small mountain. Under Bai Tian's power, the black water drops turned into black water beads, rotating and shelling towards each war chariot. The war chariots were made of quenched metals, which was really rigid. However, when the 10,000 catties water touched them, the chariots fragmented quickly. Some even exploded. The warriors staying inside the war chariots couldn't endure the energy carried by the water. They were pressed to death. Bai Tian cultivated water power Upanishad. When he broke through to the original God realm, he had a marvelous encounter, which gave him the ability to condense his energy and create a connection with some kind of a water source in the immense star area. He used this water to create the 10,000 catties water. The 10,000 catties water was created by his power Upanishad and his energy. It seemed like this black water was the mediator to guide some magical matter of the water. This matter was so heavy and firm that nothing could damage it. Such strange and yet powerful matter was the extraordinary feature of Bai Tian's water. Each drop of the 10,000 catties water was small but as heavy as a mountain. As he could use his God soul to control them, the drops of water had become an intimidating weapon of his, assisting him in bombarding his enemies to death. Under his power, the black beads of the 10,000 catties moved back and forth in the starry sky, barging into the battleship and war chariots. Those vehicles couldn't endure those drops for even a second. They all exploded. Bai Ru, Alad, and the warriors under Bai Tian's command gathered, starting to attack. They put the pirates into a fix. Shortly after, they had killed dozens of pirates. So strong. This is the power at the second sky of original God realm. Ka Fu discolored suddenly. We don't have any force to counterattack. Dage, what should we do? Hide. We just need to hide in the Forbidden Land, and we can flee from this dangerous situation. Ka Tuor's face was ferocious, green vessels bulging under his skin like worms. While he didn't notice, his eyes had turned garnet. Bai Tian's realm was much more profound and subtle than his. He had also comprehended some magnificent power of water. Ka Tuor didn't think that he could use his power to resist the 10,000 catties water. If he couldn't be an opponent, he could only run away. Seizing the chance when the situation was in chaos, Ka Tuor and Ka Fu whistled, signaling their team to hurry to get into a forbidden land. Bai Tian's eyes were disdainful. He didn't catch those pirates as he moved to and fro between the fragments of the pirates' war chariots and battleship as if he was taking a walk in an empty park. He was moving quickly like a fish in water, giving people a feeling that he was swimming in a vast sea, maintaining a deep harmony with his water power Upanishad. Just like a fish wandering in the sea, Bai Tian sometimes extended his hand and shot a stream from his fingertip, blowing off a war chariot that stood on his way. No one had the power to resist him along the way. Even when 10 King God Realm warriors joined hands, they couldn't fight him. He killed them with ease. However, the tiger shark war chariots, which weren't considered top quality, often became the fish that escaped the net. Bai Tian didn't attack them. A tiger shark war chariot was just 10 meters away from him, but Bai Tian just ignored it. None of the war chariots and battleships that Bai Tian had exploded had bloody slaughterer Ka Tuor's flag. It seemed like he wanted to let them survive. Bai Ru and Alad followed Bai Tian. They were attacking the pirates that they could see. However, they avoided the tiger shark war chariots. It wasn't sure if they meant it or not. As long as they were pirates under Ka Tuor's commands, they could run away with ease. Dage, it seems like we're all okay. Do you know Bai Tian? Ka Fu poured more energy into the war chariot, changing the direction of his chariot and asking with surprise. Ka Tuor didn't know head or tail, shaking his head. No. How could I befriend a character like Bai Tian? Moreover, we're the enemy of the 3 big forces. Bai Tian hasn't shown mercy in treating me because I am a pirate. How could he know me? Then it's strange. Did you see that? Our people can dodge their attacks easily. Are they so blind that they just simply don't see our pirates? Ka Fu was suspicious. I don't know, neither. Ka Tuor didn't know the causes. Slosh slosh slosh. A transparent stream appeared in front of the two. A large amount of steam arose, hindering their visions even though they heard splashing. The tiger shark war chariot sank into the stream as if it had fallen into a deep muddy puddle. The war chariot slowed down several times, slowing down from a tiger shark to a turtle. It became sluggish in this stream of water. Not good. They want to capture us. Ka Fu suddenly got it. He paled and screamed, damn it. They want to capture us to track down Foam Ku. I think they have some other plan. Ka Tuor's face darkened. He didn't say anything, but his blood-red eyes were twinkling as if he was weighing pros and cons. At the most critical moment, he was making up his mind. Swoosh! A flow of water sparkled. The stream rippled, and Bai Tian's figure was created inside the water. He was smilingly looking at the two brothers, prying, how are you guys related to Shi Yang? Why do you ask? Ka Tuor was surprised. He suddenly realized that his tiger shark war chariot was not the only one confined to this stream. His fellows' war chariots were also unable to be moved. They seemed to not be able to break the restraint of this river. You just need to answer me, Bai Tian frowned. We work for him. Ka Tuor's head worked fast. A light flashed and he came up to that answer. Bai Tian's eyes twinkled. He contemplated for a while, then waved his hands. I'll give him face. You guys say hello to him for me. Okay, go. You can leave now. The power confining them disappeared. That river diverged, releasing the tiger shark war chariots. The sluggish war chariots roared and soared away. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu flew at max speed with their baffled face. They didn't know why Bai Tian let them go. Master, we can let them go, but shouldn't we have asked them where to find Foam Ku before they left? Alad approached him. He couldn't help but ask since he didn't know his boss's intentions. If you want to give someone favor, you have to do it completely. Or else, how can we show them how sincere we are? Bai Tian smiled, talking deliberately. We don't need to worry about Foam Ku. He can't dodge us forever. They are pirates, but why do they work for Shi Yang? Bai Ru's bold brows furrowed, asking all of a sudden. We asked Ka Tuor to ambush Zi Yarrow that time. Did he join his operation too? Oh, if so, he's too cunning and wicked. If he wanted to deal with Zi Yarrow, she couldn't have a chance to survive in the solar star exploding fragment field. It's because of Shi Yang that Ka Tuor aborted the mission, I suppose, Bai Tian explained. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, his assumption was correct. Ka Tuor cultivates a special power Upanishad. I think he will enter the original God realm soon. Once this man crosses that threshold, his achievement in the future would be tremendous. If Shi Yang got him as his subordinate, he would be like a tiger with a pair of wings. His bright future would be immeasurable. Alad and Bai Ru were touched, listening to him. They apparently also thought about that bright point. A giant blood-red chrysalis was floating in a remote area outside the land of God punishment. A group of warriors coming from the Far Star area diverged into two teams. They surrounded the blood pupa. Dozens of warriors in the battleships and war chariots were surprised, looking at the pupa as if they were trying to guess what stayed inside that giant pupa. Those people included a certain person. This person was Nita, master of the 6th herbal star. Chapter 853, Break the Chrysalis. Chapter 853, Break the Chrysalis. More than 10 several hundred-meter-long battleships made of brown-grey stones appeared. They looked like mini meteorites that could move. Warriors at relatively high realms stood in each battleship with anchors and some conical war chariots which looked like the shuttles. Alchemist Nita appeared in this team. She was standing respectfully behind a lanky old man. This old man had long white hair draped over his shoulder. He was Tuor Hai, one of the 3 general commanders of the Underworld League. He was as famous as Bai Tian. A beautiful girl of the Sea clan was giggling on another war chariot. Her black hair cascaded like a waterfall hanging loose on her plump rear end. Her beautiful, watery eyes had the color of the ocean, which could arouse people and give them some wandering thoughts. She was another general commander of the Underworld League, Monica. She was the enchanting beauty famous in the entire Raging Flamestar area. However, she had some bad habits. Tuor Hai and Monica were the general commanders of the Underworld League. However, their forces were a little weaker than Bai Tian's in the Underworld League. Anyway, they were the ones with important roles. As assigned by the hegemon of the Underworld League, they came to the land of God Punishment for the star map. When they gathered with Bai Tian, they realized that they must take the star map to expand the territory of the Underworld League. However, as they were halfway to the land of God Punishment, they found something strange in this area, a giant blood chrysalis. Surging life energy fluctuated from the blood chrysalis. Under the starlight, it looked like a massive garnet jewel, sparkling in blood-red hue. It looked terrifying somehow. Tuor Hai and Monica stood in their battleships, looking at the garnet pupa from a distance, their faces solemn. They could sense that a life was transforming inside the garnet chrysalis. However, with their realms and cultivation base, they couldn't see through that blood chrysalis to see its inside. As they didn't know who or what was in the chrysalis, they hesitated, thinking about what they should do. The land of God Punishment had many mysteries that no one could explain. Even Tuor Hai and Monica, the great valiant experts of the Underworld League, had to be cautious in this area. Moreover, before they departed, they had received the news of an intimidating hermit staying in the land of God Punishment who dared to kill Fan, his brother. After that, they planned to never act recklessly. Tuor Hai, what do you think? Monica giggled. Her voice seemed to have enchanting powers that aroused men who listened to her. They blushed, having a physiological reaction. They were in the back area of the land of God Punishment, while a furious war was occurring in the front. However, since it was a vast area, they couldn't feel the war on the other side. What do I think? The slender white-headed old man frowned. I don't want to waste my time. Kill him or just leave. You can sense the war ahead. The land of God Punishment is about to go through great change. Do you want to stay here and wait for him to get out of that thing? You're the big brother. I listen to you. We will do as we're told. Monica's slim eyebrows convulsed. She smiled with passion in her eyes as if she was acting spoilt for her lover. Warriors from different races in more than 10 battleships became aroused, looking at her as though they hated that they couldn't swallow her up at once. Each time she frowned or smiled, she released an endless charm that made her look like a ripe, succulent peach. She was magnificently attractive to men. Moreover, she seemed to be good at seducing men. Each word of hers was so inviting that it made people crazy. You shouldn't use that posture. Tuor Hai snorted. I don't want to waste time. Send someone there to break that bloody thing. Let's see what is ahead. He ordered a second sky of King Godrealm warrior behind him to storm into that area using an arm that didn't have flesh or blood. Instead, it only had transparent bones slashing at that blood chrysalis. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Strange sounds arose in the void. White light flashed. His saber-like arm sent out a sharp energy blow. Boom. The saber arm slashed on the blood chrysalis, releasing a blood halo. The chrysalis was shaken. That second sky of King Godrealm warrior felt like a hammer pounded on his chest. The backlash from the blood chrysalis sent him backward. While he was still flying in the void, his chest burst open as his bones exploded. A bloodthirsty, murderous aura shot out from the blood chrysalis together with the frightening energy fluctuation. It was the same amount of power as a first sky of original Godrealm expert. Tuor Hai and Monica were bewildered, frowning. Seems like that is a tough warrior then. Monica smiled charmingly, clapping her hands. I like it. Interesting. The land of God Punishment is really interesting indeed. Just a warrior that we randomly met on the way had such power. I think here, there is more fun than in the place we are supposed to go. Tuor Hai's face was dark and gloomy. He looked like he was afraid of something. How are you? He looked at the warrior who had just returned. General Commander, that person is powerful and evil. I'm not his opponent. The man lowered his head, giving an embarrassed smile. Send another one. Tuor Hai nodded, giving another order. A third sky of King God Realm expert from the demon clan who cultivated metal power Upanishad dashed out. A gold light like a ribbon shot out from both of his palms. The metal power struck at the red cocoon. Bang! The bloodlight expanded, suppressing the gold light instantly. The demon clan expert couldn't resist that power with his third sky of King God Realm. He fell like a kite having its line broken. Tuor High discolored. Monica stopped teasing, her beautiful eyes solemn. Boom boom boom. The strong rhythm of heartbeat could be heard from the giant blood chrysalis. Gradually, it was broken, turning into garnet dust and scattering. Shi Yang's brawny, naked body was exposed. His entire body had a red hue that made him look like a boiled shrimp. Each of his muscles was shivering. Blood chi emitted with strong explosive power. Oh wow, a hunky man. Monica was surprised, screaming. Her beautiful eyes twinkled as if she was really interested in this man. She smiled charmingly. Hey, good brother, why did you cultivate here? What's your power Upanishad? It looks strange. Monica didn't care about what the others thought, flying out of her battleship. The floaty red-orange silky ribbon hovered around her graceful body, giving her a natural charm of an attractive banshee. OF*CK. That shameless slut. Low woman. She's ****. Many female warriors of Tuor High's team turned around, not even thinking about seeing Shi Yang. They gritted their teeth and cursed at Monica. Monica wasn't afraid of them, still smiling like a spring breeze. She looked so excited. Good brother, come to your sister. I will help you get dressed. Her voice suddenly became soft and low with immense passion. She seemed able to make people sink into her affection and fall under her feet. Shi Yang looked charmed, his eyes hot for a short moment. All of a sudden, a cold current flooded his body. He woke up immediately. He was vigilant in taking out a blue warrior costume to wear. It's you. Nita shouted hoarsely. Who? Who is he? Tuor High frowned, turning around to look at her, his face serious. Shi Yang, his Shi Yang, the one who attended the extreme purgatory field. He took the star map out of the purgatory star and handed it to Feng Ku. Nita shouted in fear. She had a visible fright on her face. Her impression of Shi Yang was deep, indeed. In that year, after Bai Ru and Alad had taken Shi Yang from the 6th herbal star, Zi Yarrow had rescued him not long after that. Alad and Bai Ru had to say sorry to her. From that day, Nita started to pay attention to Shi Yang. After several years, she collected news of Shi Yang in the dark firmament divine nation through her channels. When she knew that Shi Yang's realm had been upgrading abnormally fast and that Shi Yang was Zi Yarrow's subordinate with excellent performances in the dark firmament divine nation, she couldn't sleep or eat well. Of course, she remembered what evil deed she had done on Shi Yang's body. Shi Yang's intimidation scared her. She was afraid that Shi Yang would return to the 6th herbal star to take her life as revenge. When Tuor High invited her to the land of God punishment, she got more news of Shi Yang along the way. The more she knew, the more worried she got. She was afraid that Shi Yang would kill her shortly. Unexpectedly, when they had arrived in the land of God punishment and hadn't yet stepped on the heaven punishment, she had encountered the person she didn't want to see most. Nita had a heavy headache. She hastened to say, this man can't be recruited. Since he's with the pirates, he doesn't belong with the dark firmament divine nation's forces anymore. We can kill him. We must eradicate this danger. Her words exploded like firecrackers. Tuor High's and Monica's teams became boisterous. They looked at Shi Yang with fear. Many female warriors in their teams, who favored the strong men, had their eyes twinkle. They started to observe him, without blinking. Women like strong men, especially the young and famous ones. They were more attracted to such figures. And Shi Yang wasn't an anonymous junior anymore. Because of the star map, his name had been echoed in the entire Raging Flame Star area. His relationship with Feng Rao, his battle with Black Horn, and his performance in the Heaven Punishment just several days ago were spreading out everywhere, touching the hearts of countless women who worshipped the strong and young experts. Seeing Shi Yang at this moment, although he could be their enemy, he still made those girls' hearts beat faster. They all paid attention to him. Chapter 854, Decided but not yet pronounced son-in-law. Chapter 854, Decided but not yet pronounced son-in-law. When the name of Shi Yang was announced, warriors under Tuor Hai's and Monica's commands stirred restlessly. Male warriors felt annoyed while female warriors were curious. In the eyes of many men, this brat came out from nowhere. He had come to the dark firmament divine nation because of Zi Yaro's glamour. Although his relationship with Zi Yaro was unclear, in the Purgatory Star, he had messed around with Feng Rao, Feng Ku's daughter. His deeds made people hate him. Zi Yaro's was famous in this world and she was known for her beauty. She was the greatest treasure that every man dreamed of, and the warriors of the Underworld League weren't an exception. Feng Rao was also a famous beauty of the land of God punishment. Shi Yang's relationship with the two most beautiful women displeased many men. However, in the eyes of those women, it was totally different. They respected the strong experts, especially the young and handsome ones. They couldn't control their hearts when they heard about such brilliant men. Those women had a different perspective about the shady love triangle between Shi Yang, Zi Yaro, and Feng Rao. Even Zi Yaro and Feng Rao, the ones with keen eyes, had feelings towards this man. This meant that he had something extraordinary. Such were women's thoughts. If I can conquer this man and make him kneel under me, wouldn't it be an indirect way of showing that I'm more charming than Zi Yaro and Feng Rao? In any case, Shi Yang was really excellent and good-looking. They've seen his competence. It was extreme indeed. Thus, many mild ladies of the Underworld League, whether they were reserved, dignified, or elegantly hot, they were all interested in Shi Yang. They smiled, giggling and staring at Shi Yang. Among them, the General Commander Monica had the greatest interest. This bad woman always liked the young hotshots in the raging Flamestar area. She was enthusiastic about this trip because she also wanted to see how dangerous Shi Yang was. Now that she finally saw him, she couldn't hide her excitement. Good brother, you are Shi Yang? Good. I like people like you. Come here. Come here. Come to your sister. If that old man Tuor Hai wants to deal with you, I won't let him do that. Monica smiled charmingly. She forgot what she had just said, indicating that she wanted to stay on the opposite side of Tuor Hai. She was inexplicable indeed. This woman was more famous for her mentality than her beauty. When she saw her masculine prey, she became strange and unreasonable. Sometimes, she would even destroy their big business. Before Tuor Hai had come to the land of God punishment, his biggest concern was her mentality and her odd behaviors. He didn't think that she would burst out that fast. He grimaced and shouted, "Don't forget our purpose." I didn't. The star map, right? This will not conflict. Our good little brother here knows that the star map is in Feng Ku's hands. He will help us. Monica's white hands waved at Shi Yang. She smiled, asking Shi Yang to come closer. Shi Yang's face was cold. He stared at her but he didn't move. He was looking at Nita from a distance. This alchemist from the 6th Herbal Star had planted pellets inside his body, making him a human body cauldron. She was a cruel person. Of course, Shi Yang wouldn't forget this grudge. Seeing her today, he had a thought. Seeing that Shi Yang was not looking at Monica with her seducing and inviting bearings and looking at old granny alchemist Nita instead, the others were baffled. Ah, he has styles. This kid has a special fetish. Haha, he likes the old bones. Interesting. This is F*King interesting. Well, Nita's disgraceful behaviors make me sick. I didn't think that he likes this type. His taste is a little heavy, isn't it? Extremely heavy, indeed. Many perverted warriors became excited, shouting a lot of vulgar comments. Nita was shaking in anger. She almost vomited blood. You fools. Shut up. What a pity. Neither her realm nor her status was high enough for her voice to make an impact here. Those people didn't care about her words and instead gave more rude comments. Nita was so angry she almost started to attack them. Shi Yang, on the opposite side, didn't change his face. He looked at Nita distantly, giving a faint smile. Long time no see. Do you think that you will get your revenge here? Master Tuor Hai has invited me. What do you think you can do? Nita straightened her back under his cold, scrutinizing eyes. She wanted to use Tuor Hai's name not to make herself look too frightened. Capture him. Tuor Hai snorted and looked at Monica. You do it, or I will do it myself. This kid must be kept alive. Capture. No, 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 no. Too impolite. I want to talk to my good little brother. I think he has been affected by bad rumors. That's why he doesn't look at me. Let me talk to him. He'll figure it out. Monica flew charmingly and honestly. Her deep blue eyes were filled with her affection. A magical power Upanishad was triggered discreetly. Slosh, slosh, slosh. The sound of water splashing arose. A long river that looked like a silver, silky ribbon swept over from a far distance. Bai Tian appeared from the river. He shouted, Monica, what are you doing? Monica's ambiguous intent domain was destroyed when the man shouted. Shi Yang was restored from his perplexed condition a second time. Recently, the ice-cold flame had used its cold energy, but it couldn't wake him up. Monica's magical intent domain seemed to be able to run directly into people's heart. Shi Yang couldn't control his consciousness. He just listened to her arrangement. This is a rare mind power Upanishad. Shi Yang suddenly understood. He then looked at Monica with fear in his eyes. Mind power Upanishad was one of the countless powers Upanishad in earth and heaven. It was a very magical one that required more than just cultivation to get into the track. Normally, a warrior that could make mind power Upanishad his main power and create the soul altar was innately talented. They were born with the gift of mind reading. It was similar to martial spirit. Only people with such gifted talent could cultivate the mind power Upanishad and create the soul altar. With only their efforts, it was really hard to achieve great things on cultivating mind Upanishad. Monica was a gifted and talented individual in cultivating mind Upanishad. Each of her words, or even her frowns or facial expressions, could affect people's mind and control them. The moment Shi Yang had emerged from his chrysalis, she had used her mind power Upanishad to erode Shi Yang's will. However, she was careless since she had underestimated him. When the ice-cold flame helped him out of his enchanted state, Monica noticed and she released her mind power Upanishad. She was at the second sky of original God realm like Bai Tian. When she urged the power of the mind Upanishad, the ice-cold flame couldn't do anything. If Bai Tian didn't come in time to break her ambiguous power, Shi Yang wouldn't have woken himself up. He would have been dull and controlled and would have become her new fancy cougar cub. Monica wasn't enraged when her intent domain was broken. Instead, she laughed cheerily. Bai Tian Dag, why are you here? What happened? Why are you in a rush? Is he your son-in-law? Yeah, you're right. Shi Yang's my decided but not yet pronounced son-in-law. Bai Tian grinned when he admitted this. As soon as he agrees, I will let my daughter marry him. I won't change my word. Hearing him, everybody else was stunned. Many men jerked as if were hit at their Achilles' heel, screaming and yelling. Sir Bai Tian, who is that brat? How could he be eligible to marry young Lady Bai Ru? Absolutely not. Lady Bai Ru is a noble person. How could she marry a son of bitch who came from nowhere like him? Master Bai Tian, are you kidding? I can't believe it. Everybody expressed their objections. Different from Zi Yarrow and Feng Rao, Bai Ru was a true beauty of the Underworld League. She had a huge fan base and countless flower guards. She was the beauty in the dreams of many young warriors in the Underworld League. Zi Yarrow, Feng Rao, and Shi Yang had something related. They could endure that. But Bai Ru was the goddess of the Underworld League. They couldn't accept that she had to marry Shi Yang. This was naked vandalism to their fragile heart. However, it stirred up the girls of the Underworld League. They were now even more interested in Shi Yang. They started to discuss boisterously and stared at Shi Yang with hot eyes. Some gathered their guts and threw him inviting eyes, trying to pose their charming and graceful figures. This irritated people further. They hated that they couldn't tell Shi Yang off. Bai Tian Dag, you're kidding, right? Monica was startled, her face disbelieving. Everybody knew how much Bai Tian loved his daughter. He cherished her like a treasure. How could he let Bai Ru marry a man of unknown origin? That man even had some affairs with other women. He didn't have a good reputation here. Should Bai Tian sacrifice his daughter's life like that? Monica didn't believe it. Tuo Hai didn't believe it either. He darkened his face. Bai Tian, what are you doing? I'm dead serious. I'm not kidding. I have decided that Shi Yang is mine. He is my decided but not yet pronounced son-in-law. You should stop calculating your chances with him. Otherwise, don't blame me when I turn my back on you all, snorted Bai Tian. Monica, Tuo Hai, and the other warriors discolored. The 3 general commanders of the Underworld League also had a secret ranking based on personal competence and forces. Bai Tian was the strongest. He led the 3 general commanders. Tuo Hai ranked behind him, and Monica was third. In the Underworld League, Bai Tian's power and force were almost equal to the hegemon. He was just under 1 person but above the tens of thousands else. His resolution made Tuo Hai and Monica afraid. They became solemn and gloomy. As Tuo Hai's and Monica's subordinates saw Bai Tian being serious about this, they didn't dare to discuss more. It was only because Bai Tian was so strong, much stronger than their leaders. Thus, even if they didn't want it, they could only press their hatred and resentment down. Congratulations. You've reached the 3rd sky of King God Realm. You did it again. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. Bai Tian turned around, looking at Shi Yang. He also couldn't hide his fear. Listening to him, people were shaken again. They now knew that Shi Yang had reached another level from his 2nd sky of King God Realm. Shi Yang had only the 2nd sky of King God Realm several months ago when he battled Black Horn. Since people kept an eye on him, they all knew that. At that moment, he was able to resist Black Horn at the peak of King God Realm. And today, he was at the 3rd sky of King God Realm. Could he be able to resist the original God Realm warriors? People got frightened. Chapter 855, Face-to-Face Killing. Chapter 855, Face-to-Face Killing. The 3 general commanders of the Underworld League had gathered in the back of the land of God Punishment. They came here for the star map. Shi Yang was sandwiched. He didn't show that he was scared or fluttered. He just looked at Nita with his cold and wicked eyes. Although Monica used her mind power Upanishad, she couldn't enchant Shi Yang. Even after seeing that Bai Tian want to protect him, she couldn't understand Bai Tian's true motive. Bai Tian. What do you want? He isn't from our Underworld League. He gangs up with pirates and has an ambiguous relationship with the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. Do you really want to protect him? Tuo Hai's visage was dark and gloom. He was filled with anger. Before coming here, our hegemon has asked us to make the star map our top priority. Anything else shouldn't be a real concern. Do you want to go against what he asked? We must continue trying to take the star map. But I also want to protect Shi Yang. He doesn't have the star map, so it won't conflict. Bai Tian snorted. He seemed to not be afraid of the hegemon of the Underworld League. Aogu Duo and Li Yufeng are chasing after Feng Ku on the other side. You can go there. I'm not going to hinder you guys. The pirates are running from the land of God Punishment. Monica's eyes brightened. So we can attack them as we please. We don't need to be afraid of the hermit anymore. That person hasn't attacked yet. I think he only cares about what happens inside the Heaven Punishment City. Once they leave the city, he won't care anymore, nodded Bai Tian. Tuo Hai and Monica's looks changed as they listened to Bai Tian. They wanted to join the war on the other side. Nita, I will kill you sooner or later. I will kill you. Shi Yang suddenly extended his arm, pointing at one of the alchemists. I will let you live longer. If you dare come to the land of God Punishment, expect to meet me here. I won't let you leave alive. Nita's wrinkled face was shaken. She was scared out of her wits. She looked at Tuo Hai. Your tone is wildly arrogant. I do want to see you try and kill Nita. Tuo Hai snorted and rolled his eyes at Bai Tian, his face dark and harsh. I invited Nita here. If the boy you're protecting wants to act rashly, You shouldn't blame me for not agreeing to your request. I will kill him myself. Bai Tian, you and I are the members of the Underworld League. You won't go against the hegemon for this kid, will you? Monica smiled charmingly, exchanging looks with Tuor Hai. They seemed to share a tacit understanding. Being the general commanders of the Underworld League, although Bai Tian was a little stronger than the other two, he still had his own limits. If they fought one-on-one, Bai Tian wasn't afraid of them. But since Tuor Hai and Monica were one team, it would be tough to deal with both of them. Seeing Tuor Hai and Monica have the same intentions, Bai Tian got a headache. The other reason here was that until this moment, he couldn't confirm Shi Yang's stance on this yet. He didn't know whether Shi Yang agreed with him or not. If Shi Yang agreed to come to the matrimony with Bai Ru, his daughter, he could fight the other two to protect him at any cost. But if Shi Yang didn't want it, then he would be protecting the kid for no reward. People would laugh at his face, wouldn't they? It's my business. I will handle it on my own. I won't disturb you, Master Bai Tian. Shi Yang beamed a faint smile then said calmly, thank you for helping me, Precursor Bai Tian. However, I am not planning to get married for the time being. Please pardon me. Bai Tian frowned. SSSSSS. All of a sudden, a strange silver flame ignited on Shi Yang's fingertip. A lightning strike struck across space. A narrow space slit appeared in front of him with dazzling 5-colored light sparkling inside. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The ear-piercing hissing echoed in the crowd. The dreadful scream was like the crying of ghosts. It was part of the intent domain that could enchant people. Not good. Monica's pupils shrank. She couldn't help but yell, her eyes gazing at Nita's direction. Tuor Hai also realized something. His face changed as he gathered his energy. Swish. A pale light flashed at Nita's neck. Blood spurted from the cut in her wrinkled beck. Boom boom. 2 more white gusts flashed. Nita's head and heart exploded instantly. Her soul altar and god body were also destroyed by 3 pale lights shortly after that. Blood showered like rain. The master of the 6 herbal star, the divine-grade alchemist of the Underworld League, had been killed abruptly. She didn't even have a chance to defend herself. Usually, alchemists weren't good at fighting, especially when facing a ruthless and strange warrior like Shi Yang. Nita perished shortly after as the 3 bone thorns added with space power had destroyed her god body and soul altar. Although they had the second sky of original god realm, Tuor Hai and Monica didn't have enough time to prepare. When they found that something was wrong, Nita was already dead. There was no chance to save her. She almost killed me that year. I killed her today to take my revenge, Shi Yang shouted. While he was still talking, he jumped into a space slit. Tuor Hai and Monica immediately used their powers. However, when they finally mobilized their energy, Shi Yang disappeared into the space slit. His aura vanished into thin air. That space slit closed slowly, leaving no trace. The hustle and bustle of the place became so quiet that people would have been able to hear the sound of needles dropping. A third sky of King God Realm had killed Nita in front of the 3 general commanders of the Underworld League. He killed Nita and escaped with ease. People sank into an insane fear. They couldn't react. He feared nothing, deliberately performing his deed and running away easily in front of so many people. This subdued everyone completely. At this moment, people suddenly realized that what Tuor Hai and Monica had said was a joke. The 2 of them wanted to suppress Bai Tian and seize that chance to deal with Shi Yang. In their eyes, Shi Yang could never create any threat. They thought that especially in this circumstance, Bai Tian would be the troublemaker. However, Shi Yang killed Nita in front of them before they could react. Then, he used the space slit to escape instantly. Simply put, Shi Yang didn't care about them at all. What was that about having a profound realm? I wouldn't fight you face to face and hide if our realms were more similar. When our realms are the same, I will come back to slaughter you. What will you do then? Tuor Hai and Monica grimaced. This was naked humiliation, I think. He doesn't need my protection. What do you say? Bai Tian was also surprised. Then he forced a smile, shaking his head and exclaiming secretly. Nita's corpse had no beam of life aura. It fell in the bloody puddle not far from Tuor High. Tuor High was at the second sky of original God realm, but he couldn't react timely because Shi Yang had fooled him by saying he wouldn't let Nita leave the land of God punishment alive. He said that he would kill her sooner or later. Sooner or later, sooner or later. Tuor High didn't recognize that Shi Yang's sooner or later means a moment later. He didn't take Shi Yang's feature of taking revenge for the smallest grudge or his bizarre space power into account. Thus, he didn't do anything to protect Nita. When Shi Yang activated his space power and maneuvered the bone thorns, Tuor High couldn't do anything to stop them, which contributed to Nita's death. He's tougher than before. I believe that if we meet him a second time, perhaps he will no longer be your rival. However, if he wants to leave, you guys can't stop him, said Bai Tian after contemplating for a while. I'm going to the war on the other side of the land of God punishment. What about you? You're familiar with this area. We will follow you. Monica wore a bitter face. This was the first time she tasted failure. However, deep inside her heart, she was really interested in Shi Yang. The sweet words she had told were just her usual tricks. It wasn't different for different guys. She actually didn't want to put them in her heart. However, facing an obstacle this time, her interest was aroused. She thought that the land of God punishment would be a fun place this time. All right, follow me. With you here, the possibility to get the star map increase. Bai Tian took a deep breath and flew toward the main front of the land of God punishment. Another remote corner of the land of God punishment. A space slit cracked in the voice, and Shi Yang got out from that slit. His improved realm, his unceasingly increasing energy, and his understanding of space power Upanishad allowed him to gain a deeper knowledge of his powers. Tearing the void to build a short space passage wasn't a hard task for him now. Having this magical escaping trick, he believed that even if he couldn't use his powers to resist the strong experts, he could still attempt to flee away deliberately. As long as his space power wasn't restrained, he could always tear space to create space passages that could cross billions of miles in a blink. Protruding from the space slit, Shi Yang lifted up his head to watch the galaxy above his head where the battle was furious. Aogu Duo's and Li Yufeng's teams were chasing after the pirates. Shi Yang knew Bai Tian, Monica, and Tuor High would arrive shortly and join this war. His soul altar flickered. He navigated and grinned before flying toward a forbidden land. There were so many forbidden lands outside the land of God punishment. The forbidden lands were also star areas with hidden dangers. Some had disorderly energy. Some had so many barriers and restrictions that even the original God Realm warriors couldn't get through. The pirates took risks and flew out of the land of God punishment because they were confident of their understanding of the situations of the forbidden lands. Shi Yang had a beam of Ka Tuor's original soul in his God soul. As soon as his thought flickered, he could use that original soul to connect and trace down Ka Tuor. Following that connection, he maneuvered, crossing the group of people fighting each other. His figure moved further, leaving the land of God punishment, flying toward the forbidden land where Ka Tuor was hiding. Space energy fluctuated clearly wherever he passed by. His god body swayed between the space slits. He looked relaxed, but he was actually moving faster than lightning. This was the unique moving method of warriors who cultivated space power. Also, it was acknowledged as the fastest moving method among the other powers. Not long afterward, he entered a layer of thick white mist. He accelerated and his vision suddenly brightened as he had entered Ka Tuor's forbidden land. Chapter 856, The Wondrous Forbidden Land. Chapter 856, The Wondrous Forbidden Land. This forbidden land looked wondrous. It had mountains, lakes, ponds, ruins of palaces, and withered dried trees and foliage. However, everything was floating in the gloomy air. Shi Yang couldn't see the sun, moon, or stars. Perhaps the thick mist layer hindered him from viewing them at all. Shi Yang saw 3 massive mountains in the star area in front of him. They were cut flat, floating in the void. There were some ruins of shabby and tattered palaces. There was no life energy fluctuation on these mountains. There were only some gray, withered trees and bushes. The three massive mountains looked more like three whole continents. Behind them was an immense ocean, which also floated in the air. Some islets were scattered here and there in the ocean. The area further behind the small islands was shrouded in gray mist. Shi Yang couldn't see what was there. Whether it was the Grand Mountain, the vast sea or the void, barriers were set up that restricted and protected the areas. Some were natural, but others had the touch of humans. Shi Yang stood behind a mountain and watched the scenery, his face solemn. It was because he could feel a formidable energy in the ravines between the three big mountains. It seemed like an invisible barrier existed. Anyway, Ka2's aura was reported from one of the islets in the ocean behind the mountains. Frowning, Shi Yang didn't linger any longer. He flew toward the ravines behind the three mountains. Boom, boom, boom. Countless lightning strikes shot out from the sky, weaving into a thick mesh of electronic nets. The thunder boomed ear-piercingly, continually exploding. Countless electricity strikes like snakes and barriers entangled as if they wanted to crush his god body shortly. Get out here. Slightly discolored, Shi Yang sent a flow of his soul consciousness into the heaven flame soul altar. The world-extinguishing thunder flame flashed, releasing the fierce lightning magnetic field in front of Shi Yang's chest. Lightning strikes covered the sky, but the world-extinguishing thunder flame guided them, changing their directions. They went past Shi Yang, shooting to a place far behind his back. What's going on? Shi Yang asked the world-extinguishing thunder flame. The natural earth and heaven magnetic field here is influenced by an intent domain and remnant of unknown energy. I can't absorb them. I can only deviate them. The world-extinguishing thunder flame seemed to be shaken. It continued with regret, it's a pity that the lightning has so many dregs. Otherwise, I would be able to absorb them. If I can take them in, I can ascend one level. It's so unfortunate, really. Okay, control the lightning strikes. I want to get through this place. Sending his thoughts and looking at the world-extinguishing thunder flame release his unique aura to deviate the lightning strikes attacking him, Shi Yang immediately jumped into the lightning net, gliding through the gorge between the mountains. Boom, boom, boom. Another horrifying tremor appeared near him. A purple lightning strike struck from the sky. When it was about to reach his head, it missed and struck the place behind him. That purple lightning wasn't similar to the lightning he had survived from the beginning. It aimed at his soul altar. It seemed like the lightning was specialized in breaking God's soul. At the moment the purple lightning appeared, Shi Yang's god soul trembled anxiously. So scary. The world-extinguishing thunder flame was also scared. That lightning strike is the soul-destroying one. Any life with soul consciousness will become its target if it comes near. You're lucky that you have me. Otherwise, your god's soul wouldn't be able to resist it. It could burn your god's soul directly. Listening to him, Shi Yang's face got colder and he felt a chill all over his body. It was true that the forbidden lands in the land of God punishment had layers upon layers of dangers. It wasn't a surprise as to why the three big forces couldn't clean up the pirates. Quite the contrary, they had to bear great losses. The pirates stood for so many years. Besides Fey Land's protection in the heaven punishment, they had depended on countless barriers and restrictions around the place to survive. They were familiar with those forbidden areas. After years of exploring, they knew the characteristics of those places and made them their shelters. The three big forces were not used to these places. If they made even a mistake, the magical power of the forbidden lands could kill even original God Realm experts. This was also the reason why many madmen and thugs in the raging Flamestar area would come to the land of God punishment after committing so many crimes. As long as they hid in those restricted areas, others wouldn't be able to use soul consciousness to sense them. Entering those places was like joining a vast maze. Besides just being unable to finding their target, they would end up caught within some barrier for a long time. It wasn't worth it. Be careful. This place is really strange. Man-made and natural barriers are everywhere. If you fell in there, I can help you with lightning power. But if it's another kind of power, even if I want to help you, I can't do anything, reminded the world-extinguishing thunder flame. After landing on Shi Yang's Heaven Flame Soul altar, this flame had settled down. It became content with his lot as he had received many benefits from Shi Yang. It didn't yell or scream to ask it to leave anymore. Through Shi Yang's soul care, it had many good benefits. The energy overflowing when Shi Yang devoured the soul altar had given the heaven flames many good benefits. Some of them had reached the next level. Going with Shi Yang, it didn't need to worry about being absorbed. It could also have the chance to use Shi Yang's energy to improve and ascend to another high level. What else should it make a fuss about? As it had no knot in his soul, the world-extinguishing thunder flame considered the heaven flame soul altar its dwelling place. Naturally, it would assist Shi Yang honestly, as it didn't want to see the man encountering bad situations. Okay. I know what to do. Shi Yang nodded, sending his thoughts to the flame. After he had glided through the lightning net, he let the world-extinguishing thunder flame return to the heaven flame soul altar. Crossing 3 big mountains, Shi Yang came to a vast sea. He watched the islands and islets hover in the sea in front of him. The sea was floating in the air while the small islands were moving in the sea. Looking at them, Shi Yang suddenly thought that he had just returned to the endless sea. He had a vague nostalgia. However, when he thought this, a magical grief intent domain arose instantaneously from behind a mountain and ran directly into his soul altar, flooding his sea of consciousness and sinking him into sorrow. His strong will power became soft. His ability to move his body became stagnant. He felt so tired that he wanted to rest here and never move again. An extremely cold current poured onto his body from his head, flooding his sea of consciousness. The icy cold feeling arose from the bottom of his heart, waking his failed will. He looked at the mountain behind him with fright. Divine light sparkled in his eyes as he looked at a ruin of a palace on that mountain. He found a broken massive formation. The sorrowful intent domain came from that shabby formation, affecting his will and mind. He suddenly felt an unknown fear towards the forbidden lands of the land of God punishment. It wasn't 15 minutes since he had arrived here and he had almost lost his mind already. It was very frightening. It wasn't luck that the pirates were able to remain firm for tens of thousands of years in the raging Flamestar area. The Forbidden Lands were their valuable resources to fight the 3 big forces. If Fonku's pirates could find a new star area with the star map, collect countless kinds of materials in huge quantities and around 10 more life stars, it was possible that those forbidden lands would become Fonku's pirates' natural defense. So even if the 3 big forces sent more hotshots, if they weren't familiar with the dangers of the perilous forbidden lands, they would be killed or damaged badly. They would no longer be threats to the pirates anymore. Developing ideas from this, Shi Yang believed that the pirates could use the new star area to improve themselves and become the strongest force of the raging Flamestar area. Then, they wouldn't be afraid of the 3 big forces anymore. Taking a deep breath, Shi Yang pressed down the idea of changing his direction to sense the ruined formation with the nostalgia intent domain. He continued to move towards the islet in front of him. His god soul targeted and focused on Ka Tuor's location. That grief intent domain could be the will generated from the power Upanishad of a deceased warrior. While he had heard about it before, he had never encountered one. Shi Yang was curious. To a warrior with a profound realm, when his god body and soul altar were destroyed, it was possible to transform his god domain. At that time, his power Upanishad could be preserved in the form of an intent domain. If someone with the same power Upanishad as him came, he could find the area where the late warrior was buried and learn his intent domain to refine and upgrade his power Upanishad. Understanding the power furthermore would allow him to break through soon. However, none of Shi Yang's powers Upanishad could combine with this grief power Upanishad. So he didn't change his journey to come and learn. While flying towards the sea in front of him, Shi Yang understood something. His eyes sparkling with strange light. He suddenly recognized that the barriers protecting the forbidden lands around the land of God punishment hid many big secrets. This place consisted of shattered mountains, abandoned lakes, ruins of palaces, intent domain generated by God domain of deceased warriors, man-made and natural barriers. This place shouldn't be remote and isolated. It should be a busy place packed with experts. With this thought, Shi Yang observed the forbidden land again. Seeing the many strange things and their statuses, he had an answer for himself. A long, long time ago, those mountains, lakes, and ruins should have belonged to one or more continents. After the continents exploded, the fragments created the current scenery. There should have been many experts who could build barriers and restrictions on the continents. When the continents exploded, the barriers and restricted were also fragmented and scattered in the immense starry sky of the land of God punishment. The continents that exploded with its many mountains, lakes, and palaces were protected by barriers and the intent domain created by God domain of the deceased experts. Which level was this life star before it got burst apart? How prosperous and luxurious did it used to be? How many mysterious experts did it used to have? Shi Yang frowned as he asked himself these questions. He was amazed. He suddenly felt that he would encounter many magical things in the forbidden lands of the land of God punishment. Chapter 857. I think I can destroy you now. Chapter 857. I think I can destroy you now. It was much smoother entering the sea. Shi Yang didn't encounter any enemies. He continued to fly quickly. After an hour, he landed on an islet. The land of this islet had dark brown soil. Giant, withered trees were everywhere. The terrain was rough with many deep cracks. Situated in the middle of the islet was a relatively flat area. Ka Tuor's tiger shark war chariots were parked there. Shi Yang arrived, releasing his soul consciousness. Ka Tuor felt his presence immediately. Senior. Ka Tuor raised his voice and called for Shi Yang from a tiger shark chariot. There were more than 10 war chariots parked there. The crews were all part of Ka Tuor's entourage. Most of them were warriors at the King God Realm and True God Realm. They were not exactly the most capable warriors. More than 200 warriors under Ka Tuor's commands curiously watched Shi Yang. They all stared at him as they had always wondered how the prodigy whose fame had accelerated in the Heaven Punishment City looked like. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu welcomed him happily. How did you get here? I sensed the movement of your power Upanishad. Shi Yang fabricated an excuse. He landed next to Ka Tuor, observing his warriors and smiling. They are your brothers, right? Ka Tuor nodded, his face embarrassed. Among the pirates around the land of God punishment, I'm not really strong. I don't have many members in my organization. Not many of them have a profound realm. It's shameful really. When a leader was under the original God realm, it would be hard to recruit high realm warriors. Ka Tuor was one level lower than Barrett, Genong, and Russell. Among the other third sky of King God realm leaders, he was only a little more famous. Strong experts like Feng Ku had around 1,000 subordinates. Most of them were at the King God realm. It was rare to see true God realm warriors in their crews. And because Ka Tuor had only the third sky of King God realm cultivation base, his crew consisted of many true God realm warriors. Naturally, his force consisted of weaker soldiers than that of Feng Ku and Barrett. It won't be like this in the future. I believe in your competence. As soon as you break into the original God realm, your force will leap and surpass the forces of Barrett, Genong, and Russell, consoled Shi Yang. Yeah, I think I'm about to surpass the bottleneck. My God soul had strange fluctuations recently. I think I just need a marvelous encounter to cross that threshold, said Ka Tuor excitedly. Having the complete power Upanishad inheritance, Ka Tuor had been wholeheartedly cultivating lately. He did make some progress. He was at the peak of King God realm. When his power Upanishad enhanced, it was natural to advance soon after. However, the chance to break through was hard to meet. Rarely, it was just a step away so that the warrior could break through almost instantly. But most of the time, it came very slowly and could take 100 years. When we got out of the Heaven Punishment City, Bai Tian of the Underworld League chased after us. Most of the people who came with us were killed. But Bai Tian spared us. He asked me to send his regard to you. Ka Tuor suddenly remembered this event and asked Shi Yang suspiciously. Do you have any relationship with Bai Tian? Oh, yeah, just consider it like that. I didn't expect that man to care. Okay, I remember it. Shi Yang was surprised. Shi Yang didn't expect that Bai Tian would show him his goodwill that way. To recruit Shi Yang, he didn't just agree to let his daughter marry him. He also gave him face. For Shi Yang, he had spared Ka Tuor's crew. Although this man wasn't as strong as the hegemon of the Underworld League, his schemeful and clever nature made him a powerful person that should never be underestimated. I broke through the new realm, Shi Yang pondered for a while then grinned. With his understanding of star power Upanishad, he broke the chrysalis and condensed many drops of immortal demon blood. He was near the moment of replacing his blood with the immortal demon blood. Entering the third sky of King God realm, his god body had refined the second time and reached a level he never imagined of achieving. In the moment of his breakthrough, he felt his immortal martial spirit and the petrification martial spirit undergo a complex transformation. He believed that his body was super strong with a marvelous recovery ability. He was capable of using powers to resist any expert at the first sky of original God realm. Using his powers to release 3 powers Upanishad would allow his fighting competence to leap to a formidable level. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu's eyes brightened. I think that if I meet Barrett and I have to risk my life by fighting him, the one who has to run for his life won't be me, said Shi Yang affirmatively. Ka Tuor and Ka Fu were very happy. Where will you meet Feng Ku? It's a little further away from this place. It's also a forbidden land. It's more dangerous than this place. People who don't know that place but attempt to intrude can hardly get out alive. Our pirates had to pay a lot of lives to explore that area. What happened to the barriers and restrictions in this area? Why do I have a feeling that they are fragments of an ancient continent? Is it true that the land of God punishment used to have many stars around? A life star perhaps? Senior, how did you know that? I guessed. Although those mountains, lakes, and islands are detached, they used to belong to a star. There are rumors about it. Just like what you said, the area around the land of God punishment used to be bustling. It had a tremendously massive life star at a pretty high level. It had invincible experts that guarded the area. However, it is unknown why it exploded. The lands on the life star were detached, creating many fragments that hovered around the land of God punishment. Many warriors died. Many secrets were buried. Many mysterious areas are vast lands that float around the land of God punishment. The pirates haven't explored all of them, explained Ka Tuor. Shi Yang listened to him and nodded. I see. We should go to the gathering point to meet Feng Ku. Brother, come with me. I know this place. We won't be in danger, said Ka Tuor smilingly. Okay. Then, Shi Yang, Ka Tuor, and Ka Fu sat in the same war chariot. They moved quickly, crossing the immense ocean and gliding above many islets. After a while, they entered a thick misty area with the wind howling violently, which implied some invisible dangers. Ka Tuor knew this place well. His tiger shark war chariot maneuvered around, not moving in a straight direction. The war chariot seemed like it was dodging all the hidden dangers. They had crossed the foggy area safely. They now entered another forbidden area. In this area, Shi Yang couldn't do anything to help them. He was also lazy to put in some effort, so he let Ka Tuor arrange everything. After 5 days of flying, they had crossed many perilous areas with thick barriers and restrictions to land on another forbidden area where they had planned to meet up with Feng Ku. It was a floating mountain range covered by a furious thunderstorm. This kind of natural energy had the potential to kill everything that passed through. When Shi Yang's team arrived, they saw many battleships and war chariots harbored inside the mountain range. They saw the pirate flags of Russell and Barrett together with some smaller forces. However, they didn't know why Feng Ku and Jianong weren't there yet. The Tiger Shark war chariots found their parking places. Not long afterward, Shi Yang saw Barrett, Russell, and Jester the Alchemist. These 3 original God Realm experts were discussing something. Seeing him, they frowned and approached. Barrett wore a dark expression. Seeing Shi Yang, his anger rose immediately. He shouted, "Boy, why are you here? Are you a pirate? What right do you have to come here?" Black Horn and some other third sky of King God Realm arrived. They were equipped with heavy armor. Murderous intentions arose as they grinned fiendishly. Shi Yang was cold and calm, looking at Barrett's team. He said oddly, "I brought the star map to the Heaven Punishment City. If we are talking about what rights I have, who can properly judge then I can't join this expedition? Haha. Without my star map, you guys wouldn't even have the chance to be in this position." Barrett snorted. "Kid. You have someone in the Heaven Punishment City looking after your back. In this place, let's see who dares to stop me from killing you." "You want to kill me?" Shi Yang laughed maniacally. Barrett.